And welcome everybody to our Tuesday Gun Channels coaching show. Coming up with a title for that. Eventually we'll have a intro for it, but till then, thank you everybody for joining us. We go live, Clover and I go live on Tuesdays. Our goal is to, talk about what we like, what we enjoy. That's content creation, uh, the development of it, and the techniques of it, I guess. Anyway, with no further ado, thanks for joining us. Today we've got 25 most useful items for creator tech. I usually just set this thing up and then invite Clover, so I don't know if he's had a chance to look at that title. So first, welcome to joining us, and what do you think of the topic today?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Creator tech, that could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, it goes all over. I asked the robot.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of different stuff, so I really dig it. It's actually, from what I didn't look at the entire thing. What am I doing? I'm opening this thing up wrong. I didn't look at the entire list, but I looked at enough of it to go, oh, this is more than what I was expecting. Because I guess whenever I type in content creator, I immediately start thinking YouTube, which is biased and dumb. But yeah, this was just content creation in general. So should I read the whole list and then we'll go back and hit them, or do you want to just start digging into them, or is there another way to approach this? Do you think?
I would have started at the top, must burn through them.
All right, but just to be different, let's start at the bottom. So
Yeah,
online collaborate. I don't think they're in any order. I think the robot just sends them
right.
up. So online collaboration tools, Google Docs, whatever Trello is, working for working with remote teams. It's actually pretty interesting. So just the thing I put in there, uh, 25 most useful technological items for modern content creators. So online collaboration tools. I would assume this is what we're in right now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, maybe not exactly what they're referencing. Do you know what Trello, Trello, is?
yeah. Trello is a what is it like a work group management software? Is that a something like that?
Okay, so like a team or a project type of management thing where you get a
Yeah,
bunch of people and they can share calendars and task lists and things like that.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, and those can be super handy because if you think about if you just had to do stuff with six different people, take the internet out of it, how are you going to do that? Are you going to have all the notes, or is everybody going to have some of the notes? It'd be easier if there was some magical way for everyone to share the same notes, right? I think that's what
right,
these tools offer.
right.
I think those are super critical. Not even one step away from critical. I think those are one of the things that allow a successful project to be successful. I think it'd be ultimately difficult to have. You can have any project do anything, but I think it would be ultimately difficult to have a successful project without some kind of tools to help the team, however many people are involved, coordinate and get
Right.
things done.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one up is augmented reality software for enhancing digital content. How do you
Oh.
how do you interpret augmented reality software?
Um, is that like a 3D thing or I don't know. I'll have to go Google like augmented reality.
Keep walking away. I'm trying to get my coffee going, but I think of augmented reality as like when you wear glasses and a little heads up would show up and say, "This is XYZ," or "This is a Target," or "This is a friendly." Like the heads up display. I
Uh huh.
think of that
Yeah.
as augmented reality. So like maybe that Pokemon Go where you're looking around and your phone can see the little, you know, whatever cartoon guys running around.
Yeah, like the Pokemon game and yeah.
Yeah. So that, in other words, like you're gonna
So
have
the
a shoe
reality
prime
around
and
you is normal. It's what you're seeing. It's not.
it
You're
adds
not in
something
like
to it.
a. Yeah, you're not in like a Lord of the Rings world. You're in the actual real world. It's just different. Other stuff is laid on top of it, right, or integrated into it digitally. Well, that would be almost like photoshopping things and
Yeah,
right?
see, I'm not sure augmented reality software for enhancing. Man, I don't even know what that. I mean, I know what those words are and I
Mhm.
understand it, but we're not into point. I mean, I'm not familiar with anything except for I think there might be something called Google something, Google Glasses or Google something that you hold your phone up, look through your phone, and it'll add, an enhanced layer, an augmented layer. And that
Right,
might be again like, oh, there's a coupon here. Or I guess when you look at Google Maps, like, oh, here's the restaurant you're looking for, and there's like a red X, in hovering in the parking lot or something.
right,
I just don't know of any software that allows you to do anything like that. There's nothing that neat that would allow you to, let's say, build a website and then have a map to your location and then have a big red X floating in air over your location or anything. I'm not aware of anything like that, or something
right.
that makes like a Pokemon. I think I've never actually played that game, but I'm thinking that you look through your phone and you look at a field, and then there's like a little cartoon dude in that field, and you
Mhm.
run over there. So if
Right.
it's like that, and that's how you know where your coupons are, that's how you know. I don't know. I can't imagine, but I think that could be something in the future. I just don't know. It might be anticipating a little bit more than we got.
Right.
So the next one is 3D printer for creating physical models and props. Well,
Oh,
you're
wow.
brand new to this, but I don't think it took me long. You've seen I remember when I got mine a couple years back now, and it took me about 15 minutes with that thing before I figured out that like I would not go forward with a kid. Like if I had a kid around, that kid would have a 3D printer. Like the
Mhm.
same way I would want the kid to have a computer and like a phone or something just to be capable to keep up with everybody else. Like 3D printing,
Mhm.
even if you don't become fascinated by it, you need to be competent with it, right?
Right.
I mean, it just lets you get too many prototypes into the world and to understand tech. I mean, of all the garbage and junk that I've played with over the years, the 3D printer is the most interesting and fun and the most easy to use. It might seem the most complex or very complex, but there's like three motors and a bunch of metal that holds the three motors in place. Well, maybe four motors in place, and that's it. And a heater. Like it's very basic, and the little computer that runs it is real basic. So literally, a kid, somebody who's growing, who's learning all this stuff and figuring out science and electronics and stuff. I can't think of a project that's more intimate, like fun. What's the word? Like useful, and then like useful for the learning of it, but then the end product is like so many of the things that we learned electronics on. We're like, oh, I have a buzzer now, useless. Or like, oh, I have a TV jammer that I get in trouble if I use it. Like, the end results were toys or nothing. The end result of
Right.
this is a useful tool. So,
Mhm.
except for giving a kid like a drill press or something else, which I should probably have. All
Mhm.
right. So, as
Yeah,
far
it's
as
not.
3D printing, where's your opinion? I mean, you're kind of like say you're getting into it now.
No, I mean, I don't disagree that. I mean, there can be a lot of things. I mean, you talk about, when you're talking about 3D printing, I mean, you're talking about the potential for swag, and then, you're also talking about the potential for, um, depending on how heavy you get into it, you talk about the potential of designs, that, coming up with something that you could, ultimately sell that file or whatever for a few bucks. Um, you're talking about the process by which you set up, work, upgrade, use whatever the printer, right? Like, there's potential content angles on all of that, like having basically a 3D channel. So, um,
I mean,
yeah,
even
I
if you
don't,
go
I don't
delve
disagree.
into it, having your logo, like even your GunTuber logo right there, being able to put that into three dimensions, like you say, you can give that to somebody who's got a 3D printer and they can make their own, which is a way of doing like whatever channel swag is the same as saying like I like this channel and I want to have a logo or something, a memento from
Mhm.
the channel or something. Instead of having to buy it, you can now let somebody print that or print it yourself, like you're saying, or just, lots of different reasons. You can have that 3D file and then have it sent to, like you're saying, somebody that makes it out of metal or wood or something. So, yeah, like just like being comfortable with a printer, like you'd be kind of hobbled if you weren't able to remove stuff from your computer in a printer, a regular paper printer. It'd be computer could still be useful for you, but it would be less useful. Same thing. Computer's just fine, but when you can make 3D stuff out of it, it just adds so much to it. And I think we should be looking at
Yeah.
this from content creators. That's what you did. So yeah, good idea. Using it for swag and stuff. I think you did. I don't know if you were about to say it or if you said, but you can. You might stumble across some product that now, again, you're making content, but there's nothing stopping you from being part of all the rest of the world. And if you make something that's useful or interesting, I don't know of a better way to get your channel attention than to create some better mousetrap. It might not have been your goal, but if you do it along the way, oh well. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not the saying you could print a 3D prop that was able to attach to an optic so you could use it to show off in Amazon videos. Yeah, definitely. In regular videos and stuff with policies and issues and stuff, having some kind of a mock-up could be the way to go.
Yeah, have your own blue gun, basically.
In whatever color you want it to be.
Yep, it's true.
All right, the next one up is a draw, and we're again looking at a list of the robot came up with of 25 most useful technological items for content creators, modern content creators. So the next one up is drawing tablet or for digital art and animation. Well, that's an interesting one. I don't know anybody that has a drawing tablet, honestly. Do you?
Yeah, my wife does.
Oh, okay. I think they're great. I'd love to have one, but what did it cost her? Does she have an expensive one or a cheap one?
Nah, she's got a cheaper one.
Okay, because when I think about, there are the kind that are just the pencil and like a piece of plastic that you draw on. The thing there, and that works. It does work. It gives you the interface of a pen for regular people. That's usually a better interface than a mouse. I imagine if you grew up with a mouse, it might be a little bit different. But when you're looking at the screen, so you're looking up at the screen, but your hand is down on a piece of paper, that's not necessarily comfortable for everybody. So when I think of drawing tablet, I jump right to essentially like a tablet where you draw on it and the picture is changing. So the Apples do that now with their Apple Pencil or Apple, what are they called? Mac books? No, Mac tablet. I don't know what they call tablets, but their tablets do that, and they're like magic. They're probably starting at $1,000 or something, so they're not, I wouldn't call them necessary. Useful for sure. Have you used her tablet at all?
I don't think I have.
Oh, okay. Have you ever used a tablet?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel like frustrated whenever I'm not using one, but it's just a cost thing. I have the little inexpensive one that was like $30. They're not that expensive if you get a smaller, the thing smaller than a mouse pad, I guess, the tablet part of it. But by the time you get a larger one that's more like the size of a,
Yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. By the time you get larger, then you're just spending too much money for something that I bought a $30 mouse and it does essentially almost the same.
Right.
But I like that
they've
one.
got, I don't know if it plays into it now, but they've got, where you're talking about, a drawing pad or tablet. They have writing tablets now. Have you seen those? Like, it literally looks like a piece of notebook paper.
You mean like it's thin and everything, or you mean like a pad of paper?
No, it's pretty thin.
Oh no,
but it's like the size of a piece of notebook paper and has lines on it. And I'm assuming you can change the lines to graph paper and I'm assuming you can change all of that, right? But it's for writing. Yeah, but it's for writing. So,
are you talking like the ones that are, I don't know what this kind of screen is called, but it's literally just black and white and it really looks like a piece of paper, almost like an etch a sketch or something? Yeah, I haven't played with one of those other than to see them online in videos.
It transcribes everything over to digital.
Joe had
it stores it the way it is. So you can store it as an image and a snapshot and stuff. The one I've seen was HP, I want to say, but you could also import it into your computer or whatever, like export, import, and it would do it like and pull it all whatever you write, like pull it into Word, and it was pretty interesting.
Joe had
but it wasn't for drawing things though. That's the difference.
Right. It was, you could make a sketch or something, but it would look like a sketch. It wouldn't look like a Photoshop thing or something.
Yeah. You could, but it's very basic.
Joe had a deal years ago when he was in school where you'd get this spiral notebook of fancy paper, and it was kind of like grid graph paper, but it had dots on it instead of graphs. And as you drew, well, then you needed this fancy pen. And as you drew, the pen was something like a video game. What do you call them things? The controller, where it had servos or something in it, where when
Like
you move the
gyroscopic.
pen, yeah, and as you move the pen, it either was looking at the grid and then knew where it was in space. But anyway, that the motion of the pen is what it just remembered its own motion. It's not like it was connected to a computer, and then you would plug it in and it would download everything. So it was a an evolution of what you're talking about. And well, he used it for like school for going to doing notes and stuff. Because then as he was writing them like a regular person on paper, and he'd have the piece of paper, it was a pen. But then when he was done, it was also like you say, like turned it into text essentially, and made it so it was like a Word document you could start to play with on the computer right away.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's handy, but at the same time, I could see as a student actually trying to learn, there's probably a step there where you're taking your notes and typing them. That's good for your brain to redo it all. Having to scrutinize each word as you type it in. I don't know if
Yeah.
that losing that
Yes.
is worth it or not.
That whole idea of repetition,
Yeah.
is actually worth something.
And not, if it doesn't help you, your brain or your situation, then yeah, that might be the way to go. And that, I mean, knowing the tech certainly is better than not knowing the tech. This one's an interesting one. Desk lamp for additional lighting during video calls or live streaming. I guess I'll go further and say have a giant LED thing, something, either the round ones that everybody likes now or just some, I think they're less than $20 for sure because a big 4-foot shop light in LED is for $20. So the smaller ones are probably less. Having a couple of go to Harbor Freight, not Harbor Freight, go to Home Depot or one of those kind of places and get a couple of inexpensive LED strip lights that plug in, so you don't have to worry about batteries. Yeah, I think necessary. What do you think? You'd probably do a lot more of this than I do. Color of LED, is that a big deal, or just having brightness is enough?
Oh God, color. Yeah. All of the above. Like
Yeah.
your color makes a huge difference, right? And especially because even like visible light is on a spectrum, you know. So where you've got man, you can do a whole show in lighting, right? Like your your warmth typically is what they'll call it or whatever, and it goes anywhere from um, you've got white light, you've got blue, you've got red, you've got more of an orange or yellow, and everything in between. Um, so depending on there's a lot of things that go into that, like depending on your setup, right? Like you're at your desk and that's cool, but you know, are you are you trying to brighten yourself up in the foreground, or is there, do you need to create contrast with the background? And there's a lot when it comes into lighting. So, you know, um, are you getting glare off of certain things? I was actually talking with Charlie Cook the other day, right? And he was talking about um, needing to figure out some lighting or something. And he's like, "Yeah, I got this really cool. I forgot what it was now, but he'd got some Andy Warhol copy of some Andy Warhol painting or something, and he was working on setting up a new like studio place for him to do his thing. And he's like, "Yeah, the problem is I got the thing all framed, and the my light reflects into the blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, why don't you just pull the glass out of the frame?" It's like he's like, "Oh snap! I didn't even think about that." And I'm like, nobody's going to be able to tell whether or not there's glass on that picture frame. You know what I mean? If you pull the glass out, nobody's going to know the difference. They're not going to notice that. They're still going to see the picture in the frame. And I'm like, good example is next time you're watching a movie or a TV show, actually pay attention to the people that are wearing glasses that are not sunglasses, right? That are clear, clear lenses. I'm like, pay attention to a movie or TV show next time at, how many of those glasses people are wearing have no lenses on them at all. And like you're invested in the movie or the TV show, you're not really focusing on that aspect of it. But once you see that, it's hard to unsee that in TV shows and movies. I see it all the time now. But the vast majority of people, I'm like, ain't nobody gonna know. Pull the glass out and go. And he's like, I spent all that money getting this framed and blah blah blah. I'm like, yep, got to think about stuff like that.
And then you can get other kind of glasses. I don't know if there's like a spray though. There might be some kind of a matte, something you can spray on something. I don't know if that's ideal. But yeah, that's a great point. Um, I'm gonna just go to the next one. There's so much to say on lighting that I'm gonna keep moving because it's one
Yeah,
of
that
those
could be
things
its whole
you can't.
show. Yeah.
And I think it's one of those deals where it's just like a flashlight or something. Like because every day it's dark and all the time the lighting exists and our eyes are such a big chunk of our input that there's no perfect lighting and you're done. I mean, lighting is one of those things that you have to be capable of and just deal with all the time, and it's always going to be different. So having some tools that do as much as possible, and then you always know you're going to be lacking in some regard for something. Because right now, like in Arizona, it's super cloudy out. Like, can you know that before you're filming? No, you're never going to know what's going to be
Yeah, like an overcast day. I like if I'm filming outdoors. I mean, I like an overcast day as opposed to a no clouds in the sky
like. Well,
because
today it's like whatever time it is here, it's like 7 or something. But it looks like it might as well be 5 a.m. There's so many clouds that you can barely tell the sun's up. And if you were planning on filming something like you say and expecting some light cloud cover, that's almost perfect. Go out there and there's nothing. That's rough.
yeah. Well, I either one way or the other, right? It's kind of with me. So like either I like it completely overcast, right? Or completely sunny. Now, with a completely sunny, like I said, the drawback with that is you're still fighting glare and you're fighting shading. Is what you've got to fight. And we're talking outdoors, of course, but it's two things that you've got to
and,
contend with.
and blowing out colors. And I mean,
Yeah,
out
yeah,
here,
yeah.
I'll get everything washed out or
With
whatever.
direct with direct sunlight, a sunny day, that's what you got to worry about. What aggravates me is the partially cloudy crap. And you're filming, and as you're filming, like clouds are rolling over the underneath the sun, not over the sun, but you get what I'm well over in the sense, one sense, I guess, but you get what I'm saying. So the lighting is inconsistent. You know what I mean? It's like you're sitting there and you turn your camera on and you film for 10, 15 minutes, and then you go into edit and oh my God, what a nightmare because the sun comes completely out, the camera adjusts, the colors change, and it's frustrating as all get out. So um yeah, I found that shading your camera um I found helps it be a little more consistent at least. I'll run an umbrella. I've got I think it's a golf umbrella. I think I got it in the sporting goods section, but and attached it to a tripod. And so I'll deploy that and shade my cameras, cast a shade on them. Um, and I do that pretty much regardless. I mean, if it's any kind of sun, I do it, whether it's partial, mostly
Not what
cloudy,
they're
partially cloudy.
not what they're looking at, but the cameras themselves.
Correct. I cast the shade on the camera itself. Yeah, that way it's getting no glare, it's getting no residual light or anything.
And people don't realize
Because
like the sensors are on the camera. So if the camera's
right.
in direct sun, the thing you're pointing at ain't. Yeah, you got issues.
Yep. Yep.
Worthwhile Fun showed up and said, "Are we talking about editing software?" Kind of tangentially, we're doing the 25 most useful technological items. We're starting from the bottom of the list this morning. So we started with online collaboration tools, then augmented reality. Next was 3D printer, then virtual reality. Oh, wait, virtual reality headset for immersive content creation. I think we missed that one. Digital tablet, drawing tablet, and this last one was desk lamp. Did we miss virtual reality helmet for immersive content? Yeah. So
Yeah, we skipped that. I don't remember that one.
I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I'm personally only adjacently familiar from kids that play with these things, and I've poked, put my head in there to see what the games were like, and I get it. I mean, yeah, it's amazing and neat and everything. The augmented reality, where if you had a regular set of glasses that you're not going to fall over or run into walls or something, I could understand. But the virtual reality, where you're literally immersed, that's going to take a little, I'm not going to understand that one right off the bat. That seems only useful to me when you're in a situation where you're ready to not do anything else but do that. That's going to take 100% of your attention. I've never thought about content creation in there. I guess I just assume that's for the video gamers, but Is that how you're reading that? Like
And I don't
creating
know what's
content from there?
yeah, and I don't know what's available, right? I don't know what types of software and stuff like that, but like VR, I mean, VR can be used for a lot of different things. Like, if you think about it, I mean, you could VR file storage. We've seen that in movies and other things where somebody will put on a virtual headset or whatever, and they are literally flipping through file cabinets virtually. You know what I mean? Um, so I mean, is there software out there where you can create pictures and you can draw and you can whatever, um, that type of thing through virtual I'm sure there's stuff out there that's like that.
Just the I don't know what to
Video
call it,
editing, like
the demo for the game I was playing, or I think it might have been for the system. I'm not 100% sure, but like the
right,
you go into the little area that you learn how to work the joysticks and stuff. I mean, that
yeah.
was you're drawing and doing it's like Photoshop in there. So
Well,
yes,
can you? It's not that big of a leap to go. Okay, take your editing software, put your VR on, and edit your video, right? And you're literally using your hands in the air and swiping,
okay,
to
now that
different
would be
sections of the
interesting.
video. And
Like what's that one dude's movie where they have the wooden balls and the ladies can see the future or whatever, and talking about like that movie where they're waving their hands around. That would be interesting.
oh,
I don't
I
want
don't
to.
know, but I just kind of think about like if you watch the Marvel and the Iron Mans and the other things, how they had
Oh yeah, yeah. Iron Man
the
does it too. Yeah.
like the 3D displays that just pop up, the light displays, and they're just in air basically, flipping stuff. But a similar thing, but I mean, you're wearing a VR helmet, when you're doing that.
I'm open to it. I don't know if it's on my list of 25 right now, but I'm open to it.
I don't like
Um,
it. I don't like editing now, so I probably probably
let's no.
not
As
going to
soon
be a
as you
fan of
said
that.
editing like that, now I'm thinking that would be a lot different if you could just sit down and wiggle your arms around or something, or look at different places, and that's your editing. I mean, it's definitely not getting more complicated to edit. Let's put it that way. With all the different
Oh yeah,
new
I agree.
modern apps, they're just getting easier. So I could see it being easier and easier. TN Pickers is asking if we're taking questions. You bet. Yeah, definitely. I didn't really make a point of that, but always, that's what we're here for. I'm just using this as a way to kind of have a focus or a topic today, but yeah, we're just getting into it. But feel free to ask questions for sure. And thanks everybody for showing up. We do this live because we do value the interactive nature of the internet. We could easily produce this. We could actually force a robot to write a script, and then we could just read it. We could do all the stuff that we're talking about, highly edit it, and great lighting, and then post that. Probably do better if we were looking for fame and fortune. But instead, we'd rather do this live and have this interaction with everybody. So, yeah, please feel free to ask questions if you got them. If we can answer them, we will. And if we can't, we'll try to get you in contact with the people who can help you. Your report is saying he puts a pop-up tent to film under. Makes issues a lot easier to deal with. I can imagine, like the pop-up roofs or whatever. Or if he means the whole tent, then that's almost like a light box. That would be totally different. Let's see. So the next one was a boom arm for holding microphones in place. So I'm going to change that to these robot arms that I call them. So I guess it's the same thing, but think about like the old person magnifying glass, or like the person who's I don't know, like an engraver or something. They're going to have like a magnifying glass held up by a robot arm. Go to a thrift store and buy those robot arms. They cost like $4, $5. Nobody wants them once they don't want them anymore, and they're awesome for everything. Holding your camera, holding your lights, holding your microphones, holding everything. They're awesome.
Hmm.
I guess the only
Yeah,
thing that's required there is you have to have a desk or something. It's possible to attach them to a ceiling and have them come down. It just takes a little bit more effort, but yeah, you do have to have some
a
desk or
lot of
something for you
them.
to come up off of.
A lot of them that I've seen, the clamp side of it, you can back off the screw that you use to clamp it down, and it has holes in that spot that you can attach it. Put a couple of screws through that hole and attach it to a wall or a ceiling or something. I have seen that. Um, don't discount the do-it-yourself aspect of things too, though, because while I do have some of those microphone scissor booms somewhere, I don't really use them anymore. Um, because I either use headsets or wireless lavalier mics, so I don't need things to hold my microphones like that. But you're right, can be done, can be used for lighting or, you know, various other things, cameras even. Um, but don't discount being able to build something on your own. You know, I've got a couple of different quote unquote rigs that I've built over the years, whether it's to hold microphones or cameras or whatever the case may be, that, you know, literally built out of PVC pipe. That was like laying around, half inch, 3/4, 1 inch, whatever, PVC pipe. And if you take that PVC pipe and you've got different joints, right, and you don't glue it, you can move those joints around to adjust everything. So uh, just man, what I do, or what I've done, I should say.
So Tinker Toys were getting us ready for a long time ago.
Ah,
Did
this is
you,
true. Yeah, a lot
did
like
you ever
that. Yeah.
have a giant set of Tinker Toys?
Yeah, I don't think I had a giant. No.
One Christmas, I got a giant set, and they, like, the circle parts were the size of a plate, let's say, and then
Oh crap!
the regular parts were the size of like a PVC pipe. And then years later, PVC
Wow.
happened, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know what this is all about. Just jam that in there. I already figured this. I mastered this years ago."
All right. Right.
So we got a question out there from TN. Might as well hit it right instead of digging into this list, which is just
Yeah, he
all
sent me
that
an
list.
email. Just real quick, he sent me an email on all of that. I don't know if you got my reply, bro, but I would say call me because we'll cover that. But it, depending on what you're specifically doing and other things, it's hard to answer accurately. That's one of the complaints, and it's one of the reasons we do this. Um,
So here's the
but
question. TN
yeah,
Pickers is saying, uh, well, is this the beginning? Want to post affiliate links, but YouTube clearly states we can't post links to websites that sell guns or accessories. However, I see many other posts their affiliate links. How is everybody doing this? Just posting in violation of YouTube policy? Question mark. Isn't this a big risk and eventual guarantee of a community strike? Um, so essentially, the question is, how do you um, link to places if those places have firearms on them? And that's a good question, because that there is policy, and the policy is clear, but it's nuanced, I guess. But the big answer is that you can't know what the other person is going to have on their website with any link. And we're not trying to help you get around YouTube policy or anything. So the way to comply with that would be, what I'm assuming what you're going to tell them, what Go said, is a summary link to a neutral third place, and then if people want to keep going, they can. But you're not,
yeah,
if you want to affiliate link to stuff um, that is got more than one thing on it, reach out to them too. Sometimes they have multiple places. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Sometimes they have another site that has the flashlight or the thing that you're looking for, because
yeah,
they're not
different
on
landing
over
page.
YouTube. Yeah. But
Yeah,
anyway, I'll let you.
yeah,
Like you say, there's a lot to that one, but
yeah. There's been
essentially,
issues. Go ahead. I'll let you finish. I thought you were done.
no, I'm just talking to talk about it.
So there have been instances before where channels have seen problems. USCCA obviously is a big thing, and there's nothing wrong with those people that are, well, sponsored by whatever it might be, USCCA. But there was an instance that happened. It was kind of a little rash that USCCA was giving away like a gun and some other stuff, right? And so they were advertising this giveaway on the USCCA homepage. And so the creators that were, hey, this video is sponsored by our good friends at USCCA, and they sell insurance and you need it, and blah, 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 blah. Link below and go there and check it out. You know what I mean? And like USCCA changed all of that. The creator didn't have anything to do with that, but it was basically pointing to the advertisement for a giveaway, right? Giveaway of a gun, which is even more problematic than just a giveaway in and of itself. But um, so you've got issues like that. I would address it first off by saying I like to address this throwing people under the bus. Oh, they're doing it, so I don't understand how they're doing it. And so, first of all, you're not able to see behind the scenes or know what all creators are doing behind the scenes or how they do their content or whatever, unless you explicitly have a conversation with that person. Um, on a one-on-one level to understand how they're doing things. Because two things. Number one is they may not be able to articulate to you properly, or even understand or be educated enough to be able to articulate what's going on when they're putting their links or whatever in there. Maybe they don't care about monetization, or there's lots of factors that go into that you're not going to know. And then second, there's a lot of people out there, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, because I'm not going to discount the fact that being uneducated on policy and things don't contribute to it, because it does. But they just lie. It happens. I mean, you get people that are agenda driven, and they'll be doing things totally different than the norm, but like they won't admit to it. They won't ever admit to that, right? They're not going to tell their quote unquote secret because they feel like they, know how to game the system or something. Um, Bottom line, though, is there's a speed limit on the interstate out there that says 75 miles an hour. And it doesn't matter if everybody on the highway is driving 90. If you drive 80, you're breaking the speed limit. Like that's a thing, right? So, I always go back when that's mentioned to this. Next time you get pulled over for speeding, make sure you tell that officer everybody else was speeding. Use that as an excuse, right? Because it's not going to work. And never in the history of anybody getting pulled over, I don't think that's ever worked. So there is that aspect of it, that everything is kind of personal, and then it's sort of related, and it's contextual. Just a lot of different things that go into it. But more to Ghost's point too. I need
Oh,
to
hold
hit
on.
on that
When
real
you
quick.
use that one before, I want to just add to that. I like that one where everybody's speeding, but it doesn't matter if you're speeding, you're going to get pulled over. Um, if you talk to any of those people that are speeding, they're going to go, "Oh yeah, you don't have to worry about the speed limit. You don't have to worry
Yeah,
about it. I'm
I've
pulled
never, I've
over."
never got, I've never got pulled over. Yeah,
Yeah, confidently. So I'm just
yeah,
saying, I like that analogy. I think it's the best one I've heard for
yeah,
this situation. But that's the thing is you're gonna confidently get an answer that does not matter from everybody that speeds until they get caught for speeding, and then they'll be
uh,
like, "Well, you can get caught,"
yeah,
and
yep,
they'll change that quick. They'll change that fast because they'll confidently tell you there's no
well,
way to get caught.
or they just don't want to admit that they've gotten caught and gotten a ticket. They want to
Well,
look good.
that's what you're saying too. But I
I've
mean,
never got pulled over.
the person who's
Yeah,
honest can honestly say there's no speed limit. You're never going to get caught. I've never seen anybody get caught. The only time I ever see people get caught, they must be going way faster than us.
right.
Because that's your other thing. Like, oh, everybody's going this speed limit. They caught that guy. He must be way worse than us. That's just the
Hmm.
tendency, and you're not a bad
Yeah,
person. That's just the way it is. So I'm not trying to say people that are doing it are a-holes or doing it wrong. They just don't know. And the people that they've talked to said, yeah, don't worry about it. So
yeah.
it's just one of those frustrating things. So I'm not saying to skirt it at all. In fact, except for a couple of rare
You're going to
instances, no
have to
one.
play in the gray a little bit. You're going to have to, right? But
Well,
that's
I'm
the
not going to say that.
problem.
I'm just going to say I think that's a worthless pursuit. The people that do that are making a ton of money, make it look easy, and then a
Oh yeah,
bunch of people try, and those people that try are helping the affiliates just fine. But there's way more interesting and fun and financially lucrative ways to support your channel than affiliate links. The affiliate links are great sprinkles on top of the frosting, on top of the cake. But go get a cake and go get frosting and then worry about the sprinkles. But you're not going to make a meal out of sprinkles, especially the amount of, you're only going to
right,
get the amount of sprinkles you get on a cake anyway. Best you can
right.
hope for is a sprinkling of affiliate money
Yeah.
compared to all the other money out there. So as much as this can be frustrating for people, it's not even an issue. It's not even an issue.
Right.
In my opinion, big picture.
So before we close out this with the
Sure.
tea and pickers, real quick, address what Ghost has said, because Ghost is not wrong, but um, you need to key in rather than generalization on exactly what Ghost has said out there. But you should drive them to your website and then have a page with your links on a tab on your website, right? Not drive them directly to a page that says, "Here's all my affiliate links for all these things," right? Not Don't drive them, because it's the same thing. People will put in their link tree or something, and they'll go, "Oh, go see my link tree for all the." Well, it's when you've got a link tree that says Palmetto State Armory, Brownells, blah 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 in your link tree, it's freaking obvious what that is, right? So I've had these discussions with YouTube in the past. Um, and there is no definitive standard as to how many clicks away from that video something is. So this is
To
where I
be
was talking
safe.
about, yes, to be 100% safe. So this is why I say we do play, and this is why it's very specific to the creator and what they do. Do they have a website, or are they using Linktree, and all these other questions come into play. But um, we are playing in the gray area a little bit because yeah, you can do like Go said, and it can be 18 clicks away. But if you get a human reviewer with YouTube, or get a complaint on one of your videos, and somebody actually goes in there and it's even though it's 18 clicks, the policy doesn't say any less than this clicks or any more than this clicks away. It just says you can't do it. And so, one of the things that, regardless of whether you house those links, one of the big things is people see direct, right? They see the word direct link, and they also hear the word promotion or promoting, right? And they don't understand from YouTube's perspective how YouTube is viewing that. And so the way that they're viewing that is it really doesn't matter if it's contraband. Let's say it's a firearm. Let's say it is Palmetto State Armor because they sell firearms. So and you verbally push even though you don't mention the website, right? And you don't say, you say, hey, this here, you can get these right here at Palmetto State Armory. If you're interested in checking out more, you can jump down, to my link tree, to learn more, blah, 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 right? Well, you did a kind of a promotion and a push for that company. And then you pointed to a link that will eventually get somebody, if they follow it enough, to where you just told them to go, right? So it's a combination of things and the way that you word everything. Like all of that makes a difference when you're playing within the gray. And then that's what we've got to do. I mean, if you're going to play the affiliate game, you know, there's a certain amount of playing in the gray that you got to do, unfortunately.
In my opinion, I'm going to say this again because I can keep harping on this. I understand that people want to crack the nut of the affiliate game because it seems like it's such an easy nut to crack or like such a nice gravy train to be on. It's a massive pain in the ass. And what you're going to do is get a tiny trickle of money. The only way to get any kind of return on a tiny trickle is to have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of whatever it is, traffic or whatever. So I threw in there friends versus fans. If we're talking to content creators, not everybody is trying to be, I don't know what even, what your goal is. Ask yourself what your goal is. Are you just doing this? Are you doing this with a direction or a reason or a
Right.
focus? And if that focus is to have fun, if that focus is to meet people or to have influence in the community or to be able to champion a gun shop or a league or something, right? If you're trying to do something with your time, would you rather have a bunch of people that casually are aware of what you're doing or have a bunch of people that lockstep do what you tell them, or would you rather have a bunch of friends that when necessary can help? So
Well,
that's what I'd recommend is when you're doing your stuff, if you want to build towards affiliate links, all right, you can do it, but you can understand that an affiliate link can be just as useful if you once a year you ask 25 people to use a link to do something, to get something happen, to accomplish a
right.
task,
It's also
versus have 25 single clicks come in from anonymous sources, and the type of content you have to do to attract that is just boring. I'm just saying, like, if you want to burn out, go
yeah.
for trying to do giant stuff for everybody that you don't even know. If you want to
Right.
have fun with the friends that you do know, and when new people come along, grow your circles. But if you're going for growth, you just end up like you're never talking to anybody. You're always talking to the next person down the street, and nobody wants to stick around for that unless you really got something interesting to say.
So with affiliate links, and then we can move on. Um, unless you come up with something else that
Yeah, no worries. That's what it's.
reminds me of something.
We go
But
on
anyway,
tangents here, right?
but on affiliate links, so I am an adopter of an all of the above strategy, right? So I think affiliate links need to be a part of your game, right? And the reason is like it's just like I tell people, you need Patreon set up, you need all these other mechanisms at least set up, whether you push them or not. That way the options are there, right? You have those outlets, you have those doors, you can move seamlessly and quickly from one to the other, and do stuff if you need to, right? It's also going to give you the opportunity to play around with it and learn, right? But it's hooks in the water, right? It's just hooks in the water for revenue as opposed to what we
Sails
would
in the wind.
normally
Yeah.
talk about. Yeah. So, like, I've got affiliate links everywhere, and some months I'm like, holy crap! Like, where did this extra $200-300 come from? You know? And I go research it, and it's some link from a video or a Gear Report article or whatever it was from 2 or 3 years ago, right? That for whatever reason that got shared on a forum and people clicked affiliate links in it, and and it was like, okay, that's a cool surprise, right? So playing
No,
around with them are I think are important for that aspect of things.
no, 100%. It's tools in a toolbox, I think, is another way, as you're saying that,
Yeah,
another way to think of it.
yeah,
They're lures in a thing. And if you might like top, what's that even called? Top
mhm,
water or whatever it is, like, fishing for jump fish, they're going to jump up and bite. But if it's the wrong kind of day and you got nothing else to do and you're dropping worms to catch a fish,
yeah,
then you're going to drop a boring worm and catch a fish, right? So you got to have that in your toolbox if you want to do it. And
yep.
that's where you're 100% right. Like, I'm not saying don't use them. I guess
Well,
what I should say be saying is the people that use only them are like the
uh-huh.
person that walks around with a screwdriver going, "Hey, can I screw that? Can I screw that? Can I screw
Well,
that?" Every once in a while they're
and
useful.
it's
Most of the time they're just doing the wrong tool for the job. So I think I
right.
should have said have it, but don't count on it as being your income. Have it as being those sprinkles so that it makes your icing a little bit nicer once in a while or whatever, but you're not,
Right.
depending on it for sustenance.
Well, we use the fishing analogy, right? Since you kind of we went down that road. So, you pull up to the lake, right? And you've got, the boat ramp area and all of that. And quite often a lot of people fish around the boat ramp area. So you get out there and you put your pole stands where you stick them in the ground and go. Or maybe you throw some jugs out, right, with some hooks on it, something like that, right? Then you get your bass boat and you start trolling other areas and you do what G is your top water, you're actively bass fishing, but you've got jugs or trot lines or poles or something set out for catfish, for
Yep.
different kinds of fish that you don't actively, troll for. Um, so, if you don't catch a bass, right, you get back to the bank and you may have another fish or something on the hook. So just increases your odds. One thing that I would say that many creators discount that's a more targeted approach, not just with affiliate links, but when we get into all kinds of other calls to action as well, is I think a better approach would be to do the videos, do it like you're going to normally do it, especially if we're talking about a questionable link from a questionable company, right? If it's an optics company, odds are you're going to be okay with that. Even though it does list that within monetization policy, like holster companies, flashlight companies, 100% above board, so you're not going to have an issue. But go in there, especially if you have a website, collect email addresses. Like, seriously work on your email list, because here's the thing. If you get somebody that actively signs up to your email list, that's an added level of engagement. That's not just a view. Like, it's real easy for somebody to just jump on YouTube and watch a video and they're gone forever and all that kind of stuff, right? When they start clicking the like, when they start clicking the subscribe, when they start um, commenting on your video, when they go to your website, when they sign up for your newsletter, all of those are added levels of engagement from that particular viewer. So you've got that identifies a more loyal viewer, right? That they've went through the process and the steps. They're interested enough to register their email address to join that email list. And then monthly or whatever, quarterly, however you want to break it up. I wouldn't do it too often, but release a newsletter that pushes to you can release the newsletter that pushes to your website that then has those affiliate links and all into play, right? Maybe you put your newsletter in the form of a blog post, some email. What am I thinking? Like Constant Contact, Mailchimp, and some of those get really squirrely when you put affiliate links
Well, I was just going to
in
say they
those.
have policies too. So
Yeah.
you need to use a system for newsletter, because if you just try to send an email to too many people,
Oh yeah,
everybody's
definitely.
email will see you as a spam. So you use a
That's true.
newsletter because it's they pay basically a bulk license, kind of like anyway, they
Right.
pay a different kind of license so you
Right.
don't get blocked from that. But they're also going to give you a bunch of tools. But with those tools come terms of service, and that's what Clover's touching on there. So nothing's easier
Yeah, there's
completely.
various ways to work that newsletter or utilize that email list. I'm just saying, work on that email list because it's a much there's going to naturally be, just because of the level of engagement required to get an email on that list. There's naturally going to be more return, more percentage, more whatever when you start pushing out affiliate stuff to that email list as opposed to a random arbitrary video. Okay.
For
Moving on.
sure. I can't agree more. I'm just going to go on to the next one, though, because we definitely took a tangent there. Let's see. Next one. Next point from the robots: 25 most useful technological items for modern content creation. Going backwards order is wireless microphone systems for recording audio in a variety of settings.
100%.
Yeah, I was against these because I
Love
don't
it.
like garbage and junk and stuff laying around. And these guys were paying hundreds of dollars for these years ago. And Pink just gave me a set that cost like $35 or something, I think he said. And listening to people at what do you call it, range day, they're magic. So yeah, they plug into the one part plugs into the bottom of your phone. They look like earbuds. The other parts clip onto people just like you've always seen. And $35, $40, $50, really fancy one might cost you 100 now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can get
Uh,
the Sarmatic Blink Goes, which I use. Snob out there uses. Um,
oh,
a
wait a minute.
bunch of
Isn't that a
people.
perfect opportunity for an affiliate link that doesn't have any kind of retribution or whatever?
That's solid. Yeah, click in the description below, everybody. You will get the
Seriously.
Amazon link to the wireless microphones I use.
If
Literally
you go
is.
to the
It literally is.
GunTuber channel, that'll be down there in the boilerplate, right?
I think so. It definitely is on the CloverTech channel. Now, I
Okay.
don't know that I have the updated wireless microphones because that's what I was going to say. I started out with the Blink 500s from Saramonic, which are amazing wireless microphones. And so when Snob, shout out, thanks to Snob, he was able to score me some newer versions, the mobile versions like you're talking about that plug directly into the phone. So that's one less part I got to worry about charging the battery on. If they're smaller in size, it's just, oh my God, I love the little ones. Um, I gave my other ones, my older ones, I sent those to Ghost. He's using them now. But yeah, I've used the Saramonic Blink 500s. And those, you can get the first gen of those probably for around $100 now. You can get the second gen for probably around 200 for the big set. But the Saramonic Goes, which there are two versions of the Go, which is the smaller, more compact version, basically. But what's crazy is that the Blink Go, they have them in two versions, one for obviously iPhone and one for Android. So one is a Lightning port and one is USB-C. So get the appropriate one. Um, those are $80 maybe on Amazon, something like that. So definitely under $100. And that's name brand, like quality stuff, right? That's not like, you're right, you can get them. And Jeff out there's played around with a lot of the cheaper ones too, I know. Jeff from Gear Report. Uh, I mean, you can get them for 30, 40, $50. And from what I've heard and people using the 30, 40, $50, like, they appear to do fine. The only reason I pimped the Saramonic is I've used the Saramonic stuff for many years now, and like for the money, it's a little more expensive than the off-brand knockoff cheap stuff, but at the same time, it is a known brand. Um, and you're not paying like something like Rode. If you've looked into microphones, Rode, 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 um, very popular brand of microphones and stuff like that. And the Rode stuff tends to be considerably more expensive at the higher end of the spectrum. So bang for the buck. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, I appreciate it. Definitely, these guys have used the microphones a lot in conditions like outdoor range type of stuff,
Oh yeah.
just wind and weather conditions, and then crowds and like different kind of indoor situations. Have you done a page somewhere or something that talks about your experience with microphones?
I haven't. I've got areas in the blog section of my website that are tech related. areas. So some of that'll be coming to just jot thoughts down and put some links to some different things and that sort of stuff.
TN was asking about the wireless mic for iPhone. Gizzard uses that kind of phone, and he uses one of those things, right? So
Yeah,
that definitely makes sense.
Snob's got the iPhone, and he uses the same one that I've got. The well, not the same one, but it connects differently, right? But the Saramonic Blink is the Saramonic Blink Go. Like I said, they make two versions. Basically, one with a USB-C and one with a Lightning port. So the Apple's got to be different, right? But they're identical other than the way they connect. So that would be for the $80 or whatever. Like, I don't think you can go wrong with that route for sure. Like I said, I would advise that over even trying anything for 30 or $40. And that's just from my experience with that company and those products. Like we talk about buy once, cry once, you know. I have gotten some cheaper stuff microphone wise and everything in the past that, you know, it goes dead at a show, or you go to a show and then you come home and you get back out on the range a couple of days after you get back from that trip, and for whatever reason, rattling around in a bag or whatever, the crap don't work, you know. Um, and so if you got to buy two of something like that over the course of a year, you could have just bought the other one and been done with it. So, um, and I haven't heard anybody talk bad about the Sarmonic stuff. I mean, I haven't heard anything bad. I mean, among the circles and the people I know that have used the Sarmonic brand stuff, I should say.
Snub says I had a problem with the cheaper ones getting interference. The Sarmonics have been perfect though.
Yep. Now I did get an issue that, you know, I don't know if it was just a bad connection. You know, here's the thing: if you're plugging something in, you got the least little bit of dirt or dust or anything in the socket there or whatever, the connection point. I mean, it can happen. But I did a video it shot that the audio was absolutely terrible on, and you know, I don't know if it was somebody around close that had something that was emitting a signal that was screwing it up,
Oh, come on.
or if it was just a connection issue, because that was the only video, the only time was that one. So, you know, it could have just been some
Bluetooth is
random.
just radio waves, and that just means that there's a bunch of channels that can jump between. So when you're in a thing with 60,000 people, how many Bluetooths were in there? Come on. I'm surprised that the things even work. Like, think about how digitally sound Bluetooth and all the other wirelesses are when you can go to, I mean, obviously we're not going to the only event. There's constantly people in situations like that where all those devices are around each other.
Right.
For the most part, all those earbuds are minding each other's business. I mean, some of it is physical distance. It's not going to reach across very far, but even, you know, there's buses and things, there's people together. Anyway,
Yep.
definitely a different tangent. Camera
Well, and
lenses.
go ahead. No,
Camera
lenses.
camera lenses for different types of shots.
Oh, by
I
the
use
way,
my phone. Go ahead.
T and Pickers. Hey, if you're going to buy those, because just real quick, I'm sure G Webs has an Amazon affiliate link
Yeah.
somewhere. I do.
And let me get
just,
a link.
just say it if you're going to pick up some Saramonic stuff. Using the affiliate link from another creator. We need to be doing that if we're going to buy it anyway. Anyway, go ahead. Camera lens.
Appreciate that. So this is just a general link, but that will create a cookie when you jump on it. And then as long as you're in that session, that window is open on your browser and nothing else affects it, then it'll have the cookie from mine, I guess, me. And then whatever you purchase would have whatever, I get a cut of that. If you close the browser, I think all bets are off, because you may have a cookie washer in your browser. You may have a plug into your browser. You may have software that does that, which is kind of a waste of time, FYI. But anyway, or you might just go to another site, and usually sites say, hey, whatever cookie was here before, put mine on top. Hey, whatever was here before, put mine on top. And that's how, you know, it's just a fair way of doing it, so that in most affiliate places like Amazon, if you click on that link and look at it today, you decide, nah, and you go somewhere else. You look at Clover's tomorrow and then you buy it. I may get a smaller cut for setting it up and sending you over there. I don't know if Amazon does that, but some of them are savvy enough to do that. And then that's super fair. Like now people are getting some appreciation for just
My
giving
knowledge,
people.
Amazon, yeah, it doesn't do that. They don't care.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, let's keep moving. So the next one is camera lenses for different types of
Definitely.
shots. I only use my phone, so I don't have cameras like
Well,
that. But obviously,
that's what
camera
I was
lenses are different.
when this come up. That's what I was fixing to say. So they make clip-on lenses for cell phones. That is a thing.
Oh yeah, I definitely have some of those. I just never really used them too
Yep.
much except to magnify or wait, be the microscopes.
Yeah, the macro and the micro and the telephoto, and I mean, there's all kinds of little lenses you can get that for cell phones. So depending on what you're trying to do. Now, I will tell you this: we were talking about shade. I was talking about shading the camera earlier. So, if you're familiar with optics, because we're talking about gun tuber stuff, so hopefully you are. You'll notice that there's something on scopes called a sunshade, right? And it's this long extension where like the bell housing comes out past the front lens on a scope, and that's to shade sunlight from from being able to get too much sun where you get glares and stuff like that, right? So you've got the same if you're talking about traditional cameras. Think 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever, and actual big time photographers, and they had that weird looking flyer pedal looking thing that stuck out the front of their lens, and that's basically a sunshade. Um, so, um, where was I going with that? Oh, some of the lenses for like your cell phone, if you can't set up maybe it's spacing or you ain't got room or whatever the case may be. So sometimes you could get you one of those cheap like telephoto lenses, right? That clip on, and then you could probably bust the guts of the lens out. Even I mean, if you're picking something up at the Dollar Tree or for less than $5 on eBay, bust the guts out of it, and you clip that on. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow an inch or two of shade on your camera lens, or I say up to an inch or two, or something like that. And you because you're shading the camera that way, right? You don't have to worry about what we were talking about with an umbrella or something shading the entire phone.
That's
So,
interesting. Here's a little DIY. So you don't have to go buy a plastic clip for $2. What if you took like you remember the old adding machine things that had the papers thing on them?
oh yeah, roll, yeah.
Yeah, all you got to do is get an old adding machine with a paper roll on it. Wait till the paper roll runs out, and then you got the cardboard tube. Take some white glue and glue that on your phone. And boom, boom, DIY. Version of
Um,
plastic thing.
you could definitely rig up a way to use a rubber band or something to attach it.
No, yeah, you totally
Like
can.
there's definitely you could find some kind of tube or little piece of pipe or
Well,
something, and
sometimes a
do
dollar
it.
store phone case gives you a mounting for stuff like that too.
Yeah, yeah. There's some DIYs you can get creative, kind of like we were talking about with mic booms and camera booms and stuff with PVC, the erector sets or the Tinker Toy stuff idea. And same thing can apply here. There are ways to figure it out and make your own.
We're an hour in. Got a bunch of people watching. Thanks everybody for joining us live. We go live every Tuesday to talk about gun channel coaching, essentially. We're working on something here behind the
Oh,
scenes. Also, go ahead.
important to point out since we're talking about lenses, one other way, and we're phone centric here. Obviously, if you have an actual camera, the benefit of having those in the different lenses, I mean, it's self-explanatory, right? Taking pictures up close, taking pictures far away, whatever the case may be. In the specific instance of a phone and using the clip-on lenses, here's one of the ways that those could be beneficial and come into play as well. And I don't know if anybody's thinking about this, but like my phone has two front cameras and three rear cameras, right? Depending on which, um, depending on what depending on what resolution I'm filming in and what frame rate I'm filming in dictates which cameras I can use, right? So let's say that I need to film in a certain aspect ratio at a certain frame rate, but I need the wide angle camera. And the wide angle camera doesn't function in that mode, right? I could clip on a wide angle lens to the normal camera, and now I've got the same consistent settings, right? Because I'm using the same exact camera. I'm just swapping an additional lens onto it. So, um, for ease of navigating your your different settings and frame rates and resolutions and things like that, sometimes camera lenses can be helpful. Next, external monitor for better visual editing.
Since you brought that up, though, I just wanted to say, Joe was saying you can go in and get different. You can download different camera. What do you call it? Like different camera
Apps.
software. Yeah.
Oh,
apps.
yeah.
Get
Rogue
way more use
uses.
out of your camera.
Yeah, Rogue uses one. I can't remember what he said he uses now, and he pays for it. But it's got a lot of functionality. So yeah.
Okay, so the next one, it says this is a list of 25 most useful technological items for modern content creation. We're not even halfway through. We're not doing very good. But
We're fine. We're fine.
This is from a robot. We just asked the AIs to tell us this, and we're learning from the robots here. So we're saying thanks everybody for joining us live. Feel free to ask questions and whatever. Before we get into it, speaking of lenses, the same way if you speak about 22s too often, or if you even whisper shotguns in a dark room, Clover's going to show up and talk to you about it. If you talk about camera lenses for any length of time, Barbecue's going to show up and start bumming camera lenses off you, like a hobo bumming cigarettes off people on smoke break. Barbecue says, I'm in the dilemma that I got into still photography. Now I'm not feeling video so much. Because the camera has given me my vision back, at least when I'm looking through the camera. Yeah, well, that's a big thing. Yeah. And I think that's interesting. So what do you...
Well, you could use awesome photography for, video production. I mean, you can put
that's what I was going to say. What do you think of the idea, though? Well, but you don't have to do video, right? You can do...
you don't have to. I agree. But I'm just saying, you can.
Still... and then go do stuff with still. And we were kind of talking about this the other night with Defense Dad, I guess last night. You can do stuff with your photography and then just come back to YouTube and report on what you're doing with your photography, right? Like, hey, here's how my photography thing is going.
So if you're good at photography, and I get it, good is subjective. I don't fancy myself as being good. I see way too many people, including Barbecue, out there. Obnoxious ones and other ones that holy crap at their photography. They know what's up. They just have that eye for it, right? Same way as like having an ear for music, playing guitar or anything else. Some people, I think, it clicks with them. I'm not that way. But
I had my robot make a 9mm song for me the other night.
Right. Yeah. I forgot where I was. Oh, so if you're good at taking pictures, so there's an organization called the Professional Outdoor Media Association, called POMA. And
but it means people pay people for pictures of stuff.
That's where I was going with that. They put up a POMA brief. They put up a couple every week. They put out to members. Now it does cost to be a member. But again, if you take really good video, even video, B-roll video would work if you did it well. But if you take really good still pictures, there's jobs that are posted on there, freelance, contractor style jobs where, they pay pretty decent money. The companies that are member of the publications or whatever that are a member of POMA are looking for photos, and they pay good money. So that might be something to look into as far as getting involved in that and being able to make your, like I said, you got your annual membership dues, but, one job could more than pay for those membership dues. One job a year could more than pay for that. And so that's something that I think you may look into. I know a couple of people that, they have YouTube channels, but and Yamil from out there in Arizona is one of them, Gunstock Reviews. Like he is a photographer. He's got a channel and they do videos, but ultimately, like, his bread and butter is companies will send him a gun or whatever to literally take pictures for their catalog, for their social media, for their whatever. Now, the bad thing about that is if you do that kind of stuff, you don't own the rights to those pictures anymore. So you know, you're doing it for somebody else. So you got to realize it's not the same as I'm taking pictures to post on my social media, or I'm taking, you know, it's a little bit different when you get into that game of taking a picture and then selling that to somebody, that picture to somebody. But we were talking about revenue generation earlier. We got into the affiliate thing. That's another aspect is freelancing. Another aspect of the content creation that oftentimes people overlook.
Actually, that's a good point. All right, so just so we keep moving, do I have another one up here already?
Yeah.
We're probably missing questions and stuff. It has happened once before, so we'll
I
do it.
haven't. I don't
Oh,
think I've
that's what it
seen
was. The
any.
external monitor one. I'm assuming that means a second
Oh yeah,
monitor. Not, I don't know what
or
external
third,
monitor means, but
or a
I'm
third,
assuming,
or a fourth. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So more monitors than whatever you got. So if you think you have enough monitors, you're wrong. And more monitors gives you
Yeah.
places to put your toolbars, places to put your, well, hopefully you're watching your content. Like if you're listening to the radio or watching a video or something, you're doing that on another machine so that you're not tying up resources on the machine you're working on. And that can make all the difference. If your machine can only do so much stuff, then you're asking it to watch videos and monitor your email and I don't know, something else and do your video editing. Well, now you're giving that machine too much stuff to do. Just let it do your video editing and go do all that other stuff on a separate laptop or a device or something, a phone or something, and much better. So I don't know where everybody's at. Probably some people are doing this all on phones. I don't know what we're talking about, but having a second monitor, I
Yeah.
don't even know what you would do on a phone. Some people, here's the thing, some people
That's the
have
reason I don't
never
create
used
content on the
anything but a
phone.
phone. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was
I
just going to
can't.
say, some people have never ever done anything besides a phone, and you don't know what it's like to be able to turn your head and still look at the same project you're working on, and have, oh, I need more room, and just move it over to another monitor.
Yeah. Now
Ugh.
Jeff has another interpretation of that down there. Jeff from Gear Report.
Yeah, that's
So
what I kind of thought too. But does that
yeah,
really help you for visual editing? I mean, I
it
guess
can.
because you'd be able to know more awareness of what your camera is doing
So it
and
doesn't. Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody
It
translate to
can.
you.
It'll help you easily frame. So here's the thing. So especially if you're using well, regardless of what you're using, regardless if you're using a camera or a phone, right? For the vast majority. Now there are vlogging cameras that the screen will flip and everything. The viewfinder or whatever on the back, right? It'll flip up or it'll flip to the side, so you can see that. But if you're dealing with a phone, like I said, my phone's got 2 cameras on the front, 3 on the back. The best cameras are the ones on the back. With your phone, they're always going to be that way. Like the front camera is a selfie camera. So when I'm not big into cameras, but when it comes to the focal length and everything of the cameras, the ones on the front are not nearly as good. They're not nearly as good as handling light, low light situations, and various things, right? So if I set this up and I'm filming myself and my phone screen is facing away from me, like it takes me a while to get that, and I do this. I don't have any kind of external monitor where I'm viewing my phone. So what I'll have to do is record, go sit down for a minute, get up, walk over, back over to the phone, walk around, look at it, and go, oh, okay, I need to tilt the phone down a little bit, now a little bit right, now here, right. And so I got to pay attention to where I sit and all of that kind of stuff. And it takes a little time to get set up. If I had um, another phone, let's say, or some type of monitor that I could plug into it, or whatever the case may be, where I would have that, I would be able to see what I'm filming, right? From the location that I'm sitting and filming from, I could just shift to the left or the right or whatever the case may be, right? And get everything framed up. So that's that's what Jeff is talking about out there, right? And they make, which is really weird if we're talking about phones, and I've considered getting them. They make a rig that hooks to your tripod or whatever that is a mirror. And so it's a series of mirrors, actually. I think it's 2 mirrors. And so what you do is you set it up and it reflects, the mirror catches the image of the phone you can't see, and then it reflects it like up onto another mirror that you can see from in front of the phone, right? Now it's a reverse image, obviously, but um, at least it gives you.
2 mirrors is back to normal. 1 mirror is a reverse, but 2 mirrors is back to normal.
Ah, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I was thinking about the mirror being reversed. But anyway, some of them I think may only be one mirror. But either way, they make those little rigs, and those aren't extremely expensive. So that would be. But you can also, like I said, you can also Bluetooth or use Wi-Fi, and there are apps where you can view one phone from another phone. So if you got an old phone, right, you could use that as your monitor. Um, Back to the premise of like editing, or you've got some kind of desktop or laptop, and you've got extra monitors. Um, Nowadays, with like once upon a time, like I'm using a 24-inch monitor. I think this is I've got right here, and it's an actual monitor, right? I paid more. It's old. I paid more for this monitor here back in the day than what I can buy like a 43-inch television nowadays. And the quality on that 43-inch television nowadays is just as good, if not better, for what I'm doing than this monitor is, right? So cheaper, bigger screen, and then if I go and I buy that 43-inch TV or 32-inch or whatever it might be, which is even cheaper. Most of them are smart TVs nowadays, so I've got the ability to, install apps on the TV itself. Potentially use it to stream Netflix or Hulu or HBO or whatever, Disney in the background while I'm working or doing things. I mean, it gives me options, right? Um, so just something to keep in mind when we talk about an external monitor, in the sense of having an extra monitor. Like, don't think computer monitor. You can go that route. But honestly, if you're not gaming or something like that, or something that requires a really fast, really quick refresh rate on the screen and all that kind of stuff,
Well, that's where video
TV,
editing
a
comes in,
TV will
though.
cut it.
So getting a monitor that's like, not what your kid would want as a video game monitor, but what is a video game monitor is better than like, oh, this will work for everything. Like that kind of monitor for an office use is going to be grainy compared to and then
Well, but it's the
video card.
output. It's the
It's video
output.
cards. Video cards are either meant for, let's do Photoshop really well, like get you the ultimate detail out of Photoshop. At least this is the easiest way to dumb it down. Video cards are going to be, let's get you really good detail and maybe a really good monitor. And then let's go the other way. Let's make this render quickly so that you can play video games fast and you can get data jumping up on the screen fast. Rarely do they do both, because that's when you get into super expensive. So typically your video card, you're going to go in one of those directions. And again, you got to kind of make that decision. It's sort of the same with the video, or once you get out from the video card to the monitor, same kind of thing. Do you want HD because you're going to be doing Photoshop and you want to make sure, you're you're using Adobe because you want to make sure that it's not, you don't want to be grainy. And then anyway, so that and color correction, that can be a big deal too.
Oh,
A
yeah.
TV is going to show up with color and a real monitor is going to show up. So
Be
these
a
things
little
are
different.
fringes, they're the edges, but that's where that's when you start making the decisions. But I agree with you for the most part, and I agree with you. Every monitor I
Well, and
have,
what you're
if the real
seeing it on,
monitors are used, and they're less than $100, and I've never
well,
paid more than very much.
except for the little things, and like little nuances, and like you're talking about, color is going to be different, but color is going to be different depending on what the viewer is watching it on too. Like, so you can spend hours and hours getting the color optimized for your screen, and oh, this is beautiful and I love it, and 99% of the people that view your video, it may look completely different than them, right? So there's an aspect to overworking in your editing, and thinking about it a little too much as well. But what I was going to say is, remember that a monitor is an output device as well. So just because it may not be the highest quality monitor doesn't mean the video you're not editing or putting together doesn't look good, right? Like it just doesn't look good maybe on that monitor. I've
Sure,
noticed that.
you can edit a 4K file and watch it on a 720. It's still 4K.
Right. Yeah. Like I can, my editor, I bring it up, and most of the time I'm editing on this 24-inch. Um, and it looks better on my actual laptop screen, like once it's uploaded, once it's done, once I go to YouTube and I play it to make sure that everything uploaded fine, right? Um it looks way better than it does on this external monitor. Looks way better than it did when I was editing. It always does. And that drove me insane until I figured that out, because I'm like, man, I'm doing the preview and I'm doing all of this, and my editor dumbs down the quality anyway to speed up the preview process, right? And so that was part of it that I had to figure out. Like, why does it look like crap? Like, oh well, screw it. I guess I'll just make the video. And so you make the video, you upload it, and they're like, holy crap, this is way different than what I was looking at when I was editing it, right? So just keep in mind, there are things that, in your editing software, when you're looking at it, that may look wonky, um, but it's not anything that's necessarily affecting the video itself.
Speaking of monitors too, or also the if you're traveling, Jeff said something about traveling with a laptop. Get an HDMI cable, and most of the TVs in rooms at hotels are HDMI in the back, and then you just switch the source to external, HDMI 2,
Well,
and then it's your
yeah,
monitor.
there are also smart TVs, and you can also run that stuff on the Wi-Fi if they are. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not all, but a lot of places use smart TVs in their hotel rooms and stuff now. So, yeah, I know mine. I can connect my phone, my laptop, to my TV in the bedroom. It's new enough or whatever. So there are those options too to go wireless. That is a thing. Yeah, yeah. And the super wide, Gun Snob down there is talking about the super wide monitor. Yeah, the super wides are pretty freaking cool. I'm old school, but I've got extra TVs and monitors sitting around, so that's why I haven't spent the money to get anything else. Like this 24-inch was sitting around. The 43 I'm using in there in the studio for my viewer, basically for the podcast and everything this season, like, was a 43-inch TV that was just sitting in a room in there, wasn't being used. So, yeah. Again,
Okay, well, here's the next one that I don't like, or the first one that I don't like at all. I don't understand this one. I think this is useless. Tip: headphones for monitoring audio while recording or editing.
while recording, I don't like it. I mean, unless you're talking about like voiceover type work, or whatever. Like if you're filming on camera and you're wearing headphones while you're filming so you can hear yourself, so you can, having that option because what I'll do typically is um, I will run an audio test. So I'll turn the camera on, say test, say a few words, whatever. Then I'll go back and I'll make sure, because this, especially background noises, a lot of different things, right? To eliminate that. So there is some benefit to double checking your audio that monitoring can help with.
I'm sure, but I just don't think it's worth putting on. I wouldn't even bother putting it on a list just because.
Yeah.
To
Now
me, it seems like second layer, intermediate layer.
now while editing, it depends on how good your audio is and a lot of other things. And your speakers. I get frustrated with this particular laptop. There are many times, and a lot of your content, G, quite honestly, is that way.
Audio's too low.
There's a lot of YouTube videos I watch that I literally have to put my headphones on to watch them, because my
Oh,
audio
really?
on my laptop, my audio on my laptop is cranked up, and it's weird. This is a gaming laptop, but both of them I've had two, and there's not anything wrong with them because they both have been the same way. But the audio, the onboard speakers are cranked all the way up, right? And about 90%, definitely 80% of YouTube videos I watch, like I can't hear it through the speakers. Like I cannot hear it through the speakers. And so now there's an air conditioner running, 6 foot, 8 foot from here, fans, there's other things going. It's not, hear a pin drop quiet in here, any stretch of the imagination. But um, so, sometimes especially if I'm blending any type of music, or background or anything like that while editing a video, and occasionally I'll do that, I will put on the headphones for that. But my speakers are good enough with the audio level that I record at, as far as my microphones and everything else, that I typically don't. Uh, I don't have to use headphones or anything like that. I can hear it fine and it's clear and whatever. But there are occasions where it's nice to
So
have stuff like that.
worthwhile fun is saying, Sandy, when other people in the house aren't, want to hear your stuff. So that makes a good point. If you're trying to edit in the house of other people, then one, you're not gonna be able to hear them, and two, you have to keep it private or whatever.
Well, there's two. Yeah. There's
Traveling
two.
or something.
Well, there's two methods to that, right? Like, not only does that keep you from annoying them, but that also makes it to where you don't have to try to decipher. Like, I don't want to say noise canceling, right? Because you
Yeah,
don't
was that
necessarily have that. But
crash on the video, or was that from the kids? Yeah.
right, what was that noise I just heard? Right, and so wearing a headset or something like that can filter out a lot of the stuff in your house, your household noise and stuff while you're
See,
editing and stuff too.
that's a great way to illustrate too that, like, I don't think of that. I don't have a bunch of kids. I got Jerko over here who's now making noise, but his
Right.
noise is tiny compared to real noise. So
Yeah.
oh, see, he heard me say that. Now he's gonna start making noises. But you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's situation's different. If I worked next door to a diesel factory and they were making diesel engines or something, I might have to worry more about noise than I do here. When my neighbor decides to pull out the grinder, if I was going to make a video right then or edit or something, it'd be a different situation. So yeah, great. Just to kind of illustrate that, we're not all coming from the same place doing the same thing. So some of these answers, your mileage may vary. And I think it's worth having some of these conversations, because even if you don't apply these things to immediately now, understanding the range or the variety that's out there, having listened to others chat about this, if you do need to at the spur of the moment adapt or something, at least you have some experience from oh, I know what Clover does. I bet you I can make this happen. Or I heard that G23 did this before, so I'll try that. The next one in the list is portable power bank for charging devices on the go. Man, I used to put this as like super high priority, probably in my top 10 for sure, if not even higher. And now it's not on my list anymore. I have mine have broken and failed, and I haven't replaced them. And I only really even have a couple. I try to, out of habit, buy them, and they always are shitty now. So they're not, like, I haven't had a good one in a while.
Oh yeah.
Mine physically broke. They were working great. I got some sent to me a long time ago as a YouTuber. You get stuff sent to you from companies like that. Oh, you try our power bank. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then they came back years later and said, how does it work? I'm like, this thing's the best power bank I ever had. And they're like, we're going to send you another one. I'm like, all right, this is great. And then I smashed it. It like got run over. And anyway, I never replaced it because I haven't needed it. So I don't know. Are you running into a different situation where your stuff?
Yeah, I don't need
equipment.
So once upon a time, I would carry 2 shows and go with like 3 power banks, right? A couple of no, I had 3 20,000 milliamp, I think, power banks, which was quite a bit of weight, especially being older models. And then I knocked that down to 1 20,000 and 2 10,000 that were wireless charging power banks. In other words, I could just sit my phone on them, right? And they charge. Now, for the last year or two, I typically only carry 1. Now, that being said, I use that one. Don't get me wrong. I find myself using them. So, as you said earlier, depending on who you are and what you're doing and everything else, mileage may vary. Um, I think it's a good idea, regardless, to have power banks around. I think it transcends the creator thing, just because, especially with LED lights and technology and stuff nowadays. Like, you can take a 20 milliamp power bank, and I can run 3 LED. I got 3 LED lights in there that are USB powered, and I can run them off of that power bank for literally days, like more than a week, like off of a full charge, like 10 days, 12 days. I don't even know. So, emergency situations, various different things. I mean, they're handy to have, and they even make them nowadays that are, they're capable of jump starting a car. So another reason to, um, to potentially have one around just in case. But I do agree that, I mean, you need to go with good quality stuff. There's a lot of knockoff out there, and I mean they're just not built well. The electronics are hokey at best. It's old tech. You know, it may look flashy and new, but at the end of the day, it's old tech. You know what I mean? It's like,
Old batteries, like dry cell battery versus lithium
yeah,
ion. Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah. And so it's just old battery tech, old charging tech, you know, across the board. So, uh, but there's some good companies. That one that looks like a magazine from Outlanders. Oh my God, it's so much. Not just the looking like a magazine part. That's obviously cool, but the quality and the construction. You put them side by side, even compared to what is it, Black Web, one of the two. Um, and then Anchors is a couple of the ones that I've got. Other name, what I would consider name brand battery banks, and that thing just blows them out of the water. Of course, they're several years old, you know, maybe even 10 years old, you know, or so. Um, so technology is going to change, but heck, they work just fine. I mean, I think it's one of the anchors. My anchors is the oldest one. Like I said, that's at least probably 10 years old, and I mean, it still charges up, runs fine, does fine. So, Chris.
My goodness, I'm having to hold a little ornery jerk. So he's squirming all around. Chris from 740 dropping $20. Thank you very much for the super chat. Says have a great day, everyone. It's got to put a sewer in. Don't envy that, but thanks for doing the good work. People that need it done.
Yep. Somebody's got to do it.
Much appreciated. All right, so the next one is another one I don't agree with. Wireless remote for hands-free camera control.
Not needed with a phone nowadays.
Third world or first world thing is that remote wireless remote. I don't even know what that is, and I don't know. Had never had a camera that could even work with something like that, unless you count. And I guess this also applies to what you were saying with the camera and having an external thing. Is GoPros. GoPros use your phone to turn it on and off, and then you use your phone to see through it. In that case, yes, that was the way I got the remote GoPro. Yeah. But then I don't use my GoPro because the battery lasts less time than it took me to say this sentence, so I never used it. But then TN was saying portable power use a Skull Candy. I guess that's the brand, USB-C portable charger, and it has enough electricity to run a GoPro without a battery in it, which I'm intrigued by, and still have enough to charge your device while it's recording. So if I can get an external, because I do have some of those things, now that you mentioned the thing that can start a car, like I have battery packs in the van that can start the van, right? Or, you know, just like you're saying, the emergency electric power. I don't think of them as recharging my devices as much, but they could certainly do that. But I never thought about having a battery pack run a GoPro. And if that's a thing, then that would bring my GoPros back to life.
So I've done, I've got
GoPro back to life.
I've got quite a few old iPhones in there, and you know, once upon a time, and I still break them out occasionally and use them for stuff. And a couple of them, the batteries are pretty much shot. Like, you know, you might get 5-10 minutes if you're lucky, you know, on 100% charge, and you kick it on and try to record, you might get 5 or 10 minutes. But to T.N. Picker's point of some uses for those power banks is I can plug those into a power bank, and then then the only gimp or drawback or limitation I have is how much charge is on the power bank. It has nothing to do with the battery in the device. You know what I mean? So you're using it as an external battery or an additional battery or whatever for that device. And not all devices are capable of that, right? Some of them I have seen devices that would not operate while they were quote unquote being charged, right? But there are quite a few that do. So yeah, Snob also says I've got a battery pack for the GoPro, 1/2x20 mount.
That's the normal camera mount.
Yeah. No, it's 1/4 20.
But he probably means the normal camera mount, so you just plug it right in line with your GoPro as you're mounting it on your device. a tripod or whatever.
Yeah, but the tripod screw is quarter 20.
Well, I think you probably just put the wrong number.
So maybe yeah. So
I'm assuming he means it just fits right in.
yeah, maybe
The
he
next
said
one
wrong.
is, and I don't know if you've gotten one of these. I think you did get one of these. A gimbal for
Well, we
smooth
didn't.
camera movements.
We missed one. We glossed the wireless remote because you said you didn't agree with it,
Oh, okay, sorry.
and so that one. Um, yeah. So my wife's old Canon, and it's a digital. I did at some point. This was many years ago. Still a phenomenal camera, by the way. But it was like an $8,000 camera when we first
This
got
is
it
a
many years ago.
SLR or a DSLR?
It's a digital SLR, so it's a DSLR. It's a Canon. I don't remember a 60D, a 6D. I don't remember. Anyway, uh, it's still pretty awesome, especially for still photos. Anyway, um, I went down a rabbit hole because she was doing so much photography of buying her all kinds of accessories, and a wireless remote is one of the things that I bought for her. And she's able to zoom and to adjust settings, do a lot of different things with that. Nowadays, though, a lot of people use phones, and there's this little thing called voice command. So I just set my voice command up, and I can tell it. I can literally tell it to zoom. I can tell it to switch cameras. I can tell it to um, record, take a picture through voice command, right? Like whatever. So the beauty of using a phone to record, that's one of the perks, right? Is you're essentially recording with a computer. It's like it has all that functionality, like of adding apps and doing this and tweaking that. So uh, yeah, it's just all that's just wanted to hit on that real quick. There's not a whole lot really to talk about on the wireless remote thing, but um, just keep in mind if you're using a phone, then it absolutely you have all of that capability in that phone.
And you're using an Android for this, not just the Apple ones.
Yeah, I'm all Android now. Yeah. I've got access to Apple phones that like I said, I'll still use here and there on occasion, but primarily I run off of 2 Androids. Yeah.
All right, so the next one is the gimbal for smooth camera movements.
Mhm.
I think
Well,
it's
nowadays the
not
cameras,
necessary.
nowadays, if you're talking about in the last couple years or so, especially the extra stabilization you can turn on in most phones, uh, does just as good a job as putting it on a gimbal. The gimbal does make it easier to rotate and move the camera around. It's a more natural thing than trying to hold it two-handed in a cradle or something like that. So, or just hold your phone normal and move it. So the gimbal provides a little more control. You can also attach that gimbal to a tripod or a monopod, which is what I did for some time there, which gives it even more stabilization. You can mount it on that. You extend your monopod, stick that on the ground or on your toe or whatever the case may be, right? And get it even more stable. So yeah, gimbals can be fun. Um, but again, I don't know with technology nowadays. I don't know how necessary, especially if we're talking phones. Not necessarily the case with regular point and shoot or like DSLR cameras because those usually don't have like gyroscopes and things in there to pick up movement to know what it needs to do to stabilize. Um, but they can be, I think the gimbals would be more beneficial, I think, nowadays in that sense than they would on the cell phone. But even with the stabilization on cell phones nowadays, there's definitely a difference in the shots you can get and stuff, right? You can get much more. To me, you can get much more cinematic shots with a gimbal than you can with a cell phone. When you're talking about your pans and your, you know, um, whatever you're zooming in. I mean, you're physically moving the camera on the phone closer to the product and moving it back away and panning and all that kind of stuff. It's a little easier with a gimbal. I'll give it that.
I haven't used them, but I did see the kinds now where they essentially take a drone camera with its gimbal, stick it on the end of a flashlight, and I don't know, $500, I think,
Wow.
$500, something like that. I think, right? I don't know. Seems interesting, like what
They
you're saying.
can be if they've got the camera built in and stuff like that. I mean, the ones I've got two,
Yours hold a
and
phone, right?
mine hold a phone, and they're, I gave $99 or something for the first one, and 129 or 49 or something for the second one. And I've been happy with them. I mean, I used them for a while until it was like, okay, is it actually worth lugging this around? And then that's something else you got to keep charged, and you know what I mean. And then the issue I run into is I swapped phones, so as long as I was using the older Samsungs and the older iPhones I was using, my gimbals worked fine. But when I started moving into, I got the Galaxy S10, and then now I'm in the S20s. Those phones were considerably larger, and especially in a case. And so I only had so much adjustment to be able to get the phone in there. And then the problem is you've got that adjustment to get the phone in there. And the whole idea and premise of a gimbal is it needs to be naturally balanced on the gimbal. Because if it's not, the motors that control movement and everything are constantly fighting to keep it level. And so it'll work that way, but it drastically decreases your battery life on that gimbal. And so what I had to do is I had to take mine, and I found a little clip-on thing where you could add weights. You clipped it onto the gimbal on the one side, and you could add these little steel weights. I think they were steel or whatever. These little steel weights to counterbalance, right? The phone back out. So that's even extra crap I had to use on my gimbal, right? And then it was kind of a pain because it can only go in the gimbal one way, or otherwise it blocks the cameras. And then the way that it had to go in with not blocking the cameras, if my microphones and crap are plugging into the bottom of the phone, that creates another weird situation where I have to have like 90-degree connectors. And it was just, when I changed phones, is what I'm saying. That's why I haven't used my gimbals in forever. When I changed phones, they're just a pain in the butt. So anyway, moving on. Green screens.
So 3D printing a new chassis part would be a thing so that you could eliminate some of that, or would that just be massive engineering pain in the ass?
Snap! It would not be. Now that
Okay.
you've mentioned that, holy moly. Whoa.
So then,
Mind blown, man. Like, I got to get that 3D printer hooked up. Holy crap. Like, I could
it's
build a
not that
whole
easy.
new
It's not
cradle,
that
head
easy.
cradle.
But
I
yeah,
know
you
it's
can
not.
definitely get to there eventually. Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, I know it's not, but like mind blown
But
that
you
I
might
didn't
find
even
people that have
think
already
about
made
that.
that file, and it might be that easy.
This is true. That's very
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah. Because
There's some
you're
search
talking
engines
about,
for 3D files.
well, I mean, the one I got is a popular gimbal. The first one I bought
Yeah,
at
and you're
Best
talking
Buy.
about a popular phone. So if it's something
Yeah.
that somebody's
Yeah. Yeah.
engineered, then
Yeah.
more than likely, and
Well,
a
and
lot of
and
that's
the
free.
and it's not even the popular phone. It doesn't have to be phone specific. It's just for a newer phone that is
Yeah,
a
bigger
bigger
phone.
phone. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like you're
So
saying, with the microphones are on the other side from where it
yeah.
normally was, or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember the brand, but they sold these at Best Buy. The first one I bought at Best Buy. So it's like they're common stuff. So there's probably somebody out there that's already done it. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Great
that's kind
idea.
of yeah. So
Yeah.
3D was
Wow.
one of the last items in the list, so works with that.
There's another use for 3D printers, since we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
So making gear to make content. Yeah.
So the next one is green screen for chroma keying. So, wiping out the background. You don't need to do that. Well, things have changed. So I never bought a green screen. I have a green
StreamYard will do it
power
without a
equipment
green screen.
That's what I say. Now AI can do it without the green screen, but you don't need green anymore. It can be any color. So by the time I actually seriously considered playing with it, software could pull any color out. So you could use any solid color that wasn't going to interfere with what you were doing.
Mhm.
But and then pretty much since I posted that, every comment has been haven't used it. So I'm assuming you're the same.
I use a green screen occasionally. Not very often. This is green screens are some of the things like let's back up and talk about a green screen just for a second. Again, we were talking about DIY with, making fixtures out of PVC and other things. A laundry cart, which is basically just a frame that you can hang your clothes on, those can be found pretty cheap. And if you take those and you just get you some green fabric and a couple of clamps, um, basically you can make your own fairly large green screen that way. So pretty cheap. So keep that in mind if you are looking for a green screen. I mean, I would say unless you're getting a kit that comes with lights and it comes with a lot of other stuff in there, um, I
Well,
don't
and if
know
you
that.
want to look fancy in front of people, like you're going
It's
somewhere
true.
to set up
It's
professionally,
true.
and you bring out your clothespins and a
Well, and it,
shower
yeah,
curtain, that's a little
yeah,
bit. And honestly, some people will
yeah,
be like, "Oh, right on, this person's frugal. They know what's up. They're
yeah.
getting
It's
the
awesome.
job done."
Yeah,
But other people are going to want to see it have that zipper case open with a little
yeah,
thing, and it's all sewn the right way, and blah blah
yeah.
blah.
And the first green screen I ever played around with is still in there. My wife still got it. I was talking about her photography and stuff. And so, she would do that, and, like, when she was doing portraits and stuff, right, she would just do it on a green screen, and then in post, she would change the backgrounds and, figure all that out. So, the one that I got for her is pretty awesome. It's pretty big. It is like 8 foot by 12 foot maybe or something. But what's crazy is, like, you gotta figure out how to fold it up. But once you figure out the process of flipping it and folding it, like it literally folds down like you're talking about into a little pouch that like you could put in the center console of a vehicle or something almost. Like it's crazy that it's that big, but yet it folds down in such a small. Now, when you take it out of the case and shake it a little bit, it pops out. It's huge, but
Yeah,
um,
and those usually fold the best, so they don't get the fold marks and wrinkles. Like they're meant to
yeah,
do
it
that,
it
so that they just naturally don't wrinkle or whatever that's called.
yeah, you like take a like it's got a wire, like a spring wire. And so when you fold it, you twist. That's like the key. So you like twist it, fold it in half, twist it, fold it in half, twist it. Basically, that's how that works.
Yeah, they kind of
It's
disappear.
it's hard to explain, but yeah, there's a lot you
So
can do with a green screen. But nowadays, like with the Adobe app, like if you're talking about photos, especially, like yeah, I used to have to spend all kinds of time like cutting myself out of the background for thumbnails and doing other things. And now, like, I don't even have to stand in front of it something like a fairly solid color. When I first started using the Adobe thing for my phone, and it's a one-click freaking removal of the background. It's crazy. But when I first started playing with it, I would stand in front, like, I would stand like in front of my target back, or I would stand in front of the side of one of the bars, or something like that. That way, I had a fairly solid color background. But holy crap, I've done two or three recently that I was like, okay, just see if this works. And so it's not just me that I've got to cut out, but like I'm holding something and I'm standing next to something, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's
like
like
it's smart enough to know what's important and what
I don't want any of the background, but I want the thing I'm standing next to. And like I don't even have to tell it. I just put it in there and it automatically straight and you're like, what the hell? Like
and
um
essentially it just is people going to Adobe. Yeah, go ahead and use my data for data collection so that you can better your product. And they just watched over everybody's shoulder for years and figured out what people delete and said, "Hey, robot, just do that for them." And the robot,
mhm.
goes, "Okay, here's the outline, and I can do it better
Yeah,
than that, and I can feather it
yeah,
and blah blah blah. And here it is, a nice clean edge." I
yeah.
mean, there's like 4 or 5 tricks that people that know what they're
There's a
doing, like
little
Clover
yeah.
was saying, and then the robot just emulates those tricks really fast.
There's a little cleaning up on a few that I've got to do, and mainly I've got to clean up if I want like a shadow or if I'm doing anything like that. If I'm going to do an outline or a shadow or
It doesn't
a
know if it's a
veil.
tripod or a bipod. So there's an extra shadow that stayed in there where it could have removed it, and you're just removing one little leg of it.
Well, around the edge and stuff is kind of what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes the color may be real similar to something in the background at one particular little bitty spot, and you don't even notice it until you turn on a shadow or you turn on a border or a stroke or whatever is what I'm saying. you turn that stuff on, and it's like, oh, okay, there's a few pixels here that are jacked up, basically, right? But that's just a matter of Photoshop and the eraser tool, and just go in there and like click, click, and it's way quicker to do that than it is to throw the image in and try to remove the background through Photoshop. That takes forever compared to the app.
I'm going to keep moving because
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everybody's following us, but we should probably, you're saying that, I'm thinking we should probably either on this show or on another show potentially do a software. Let's play with software. So if people are interested in something like that, let me know or let us know in the comments, and we'll figure out if we should do it on this Tuesday thing, if it's the right time or place, or if maybe separate videos. But anyway, let's keep going. Lighting kit. Snobbit just said that the green screens are a pain because you have to get the lighting right to keep that green kind of consistently washed out to get rid of them for what, the struggle software had in the past. Most software, all software really. And then the next thing, we're going in backwards order. So they can, well, if there's, I don't know if they're in priority, but these are kind of in priority. Lighting is more important than a green screen. And a green screen, it's necessary to have lighting. So I guess they kind of go hand in hand. But for doing anything, you need some decent lighting. I'm cheap, and I still understand that it's just a physics or whatever the word. I think it's physics. Like the camera can only collect light. So if there's no light in the room, you're not collecting anything. You're going to get a muddy, dark image, and it's not going to have much color, and it's not going to have much distinction or any of those things.
Yeah. Well, if you get too much light, though, it'll wash out. So I mean, you
can always diffuse it, so too much is better. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And then you've got depending on the camera and the camera sensor, and there's some things to be said. Like cell phones have come a long way with low light technology.
True, but they're still going to be green.
Ones I'm using now, unless you're total darkness, and even then, depending on how I set the shutter speed and the exposure and do some other things and with manual settings, I was taking pictures of the stars the other night, just playing around, because I got into a channel popped up that's what they do, is they do like astronomy photography or whatever. And so I went outside, and of course I've got some light pollution here with security lights and stuff. But I started playing around with the settings on my phone and like taking pictures of the stars in the sky and stuff like that. It was some pretty cool freaking pictures that come out of that, right? And so that all has to do with the light and how you handle it. As far as the lighting kit, so one of the things that or the lights that I typically use is you see them when they put them on plants, or they put them in there to keep their chickens warm, or whatever the case may be. Those work lights that have like the aluminum
metal shroud.
And then what I will do, I will take those, and then and this all gets into the lights and the temperature colors you like and other things. I like a daylight, which is a temperature in that 5,000, I think, Kelvin range. Could be wrong on that, so don't quote me, but it's whatever
so
daylight.
Colorful light, not like
yeah, it's not. It's in between like a warm, like yellowish orange light and a blue, right? It's not nearly as cool as a blue light. It's kind of in the middle. It's daylight, right? So what I'll do is I'll use those lights, and I typically use LED because energy consumption and stuff's lower, and the heat's less, and that sort of thing. And then what I'll do is I will get parchment paper. And I've got parchment paper cut into squares slightly larger than the bail. I'm gonna call it the bail, but the housing right on that light. And I've got multiple layers that I staple together. So I got like a single layer, then I'll take like 2 or 3 and staple those together. And then I'll take like 6 and staple those together. And I just use clothespins. And literally, if I need to diffuse, right, depending on my distance or how much I need to diffuse the light or whatever, um, I'll just take and clothespin the parchment paper over the housing, right, of the light, and then it'll diffuse. You'll be surprised at how little light you can honestly get away with. Like it doesn't require a lot. With most modern phones and modern cameras, like it doesn't require nearly as much as you think it may require. Yeah, astrophotography is what kind of barbecue says out there. Yeah.
I don't know what he's saying though. 14 millimeter primes.
I have no idea. He's getting
Telescope or
into.
a lens.
I don't know. He's getting into like photography nomenclature that I don't have a clue.
So the next one is tripods for stable shots.
Oh wow,
I think
that was
probably top 3, top 5 tripod. Maybe at least some type of tripod. Clamp like you were saying earlier. Or,
yeah.
some kind of what are those things
Well,
called? They used to call them gorilla pods, but the things with the like knuckles.
oh yeah, Gorilla Pods. That was a yeah. I've still got a Gorilla Pod around here somewhere. They're cool. You could wrap them around stuff or use them like a little tabletop tripod. Yeah, they were pretty cool. Or hold them out like a selfie stick or a gimbal.
Yeah,
Um,
they're super useful, and they
so
wad
yeah,
up, so they're not like a stick in your bag. They wad up sometimes.
yeah. So yeah, tabletop tripods, normal tripods, they kind of all have their place, right? I've got multiple tripods. If you film by yourself, I mean, how are you going to shoot, hold a gun, do this, do that, and film yourself, right? Like, it's not going to happen. You're going to have a tripod if you don't have a cameraman or something like that. As far as the whole steadying the shot, right? Like that argument for a tripod may be a little bit outdated for a few reasons. Number one is just the stabilization you get nowadays with most stuff. But then number two is I don't know. You look at a lot of stuff, and especially if you're moving with the camera at all, like the stabilization matters. If you're trying to hold something on a thing for an extended period of time, I get the stabilization issue. I get it. But if you're moving with the camera, like stabilization is not it's not as noticeable, right? And I don't think, I look at a lot of like really this is one thing that aggravates me from an editing standpoint and just when I see other videos is I'll see some really, really highly polished content out there. And um the camera work just annoys me. It's like, holy crap, that's like shaky as crap and it's not, when you move the camera from here to there, it wasn't smooth. They just jerked it over there and threw the camera on this, and it's like, wow, and I mean, like for the most part, people don't complain about that, right? But then I've noticed too, and I've mentioned this before, sit down and watch a TV show, especially an older TV show, but it happens, honestly, it happens even just as much with new stuff, I've noticed. But I'll be watching TV, be a movie, it'll be a TV show. It's mostly TV shows that I notice this on, but any scene in a movie, and they usually cut scenes really fairly quick. Usually a few seconds or so is all they go anyway. But if a scene runs a little long, if you've got 15 seconds, 20 seconds, let's say of a scene, pick a point, either vertical or horizontal, some type of line. Maybe it's a shelf in the background, or a tree, or the roof of a house, or the pylon, call it a pylon, whatever the car door, whatever it might be, right? Pick a point and instead of watching the person on the screen talking or doing something, pay attention to that point in the background in relationship to the edge of the video or the edge of the TV. And look at how much that moves. Like you don't notice it because you're not paying attention to that. You're paying attention to the actor, to the person on the screen, right? But holy crap, like sometimes crap moves like a foot or two over the course of and I mean randomly moves up and down, sideways, whatever, like a massive freaking amount. And if you don't pay attention to it, like you never even notice it. It's crazy how that's like gets. Maybe we've been conditioned for that. I don't know. We're paying so much attention to the actor or whatever or actress that we don't notice that. It's weird.
I think it's something that it's maybe a nuance. Is that the right word for like if you haven't been alerted to be aware of that, then it's just a characteristic of your work that you're not going to understand or realize that it's happening.
Yeah.
You're just going to know that mine's different than others. But I'm not
Right.
sure why. Because if it's not something you're paying attention to, tuned into it or whatever, it might be something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's something that I don't know if I notice it as much because I think I tend to watch more of this kind of stuff and we're not moving cameras or anything.
Right.
I don't watch stuff where people are out at the range very often. But yeah, that could be, well, yeah, I don't know if it's word distracting or just annoying.
Yeah. Right.
As it gets distracting, if you're not paying attention to what they're talking about and you're paying attention to how they're presenting it, then it's an issue. And you can care about it or not. It was like with audio, like I don't really pay that much attention to my production, but I understand that it's necessary. So, I'll get a new microphone here and then, and or here and there, very rarely, but based on feedback. So it's one of those things. You may not care about it at all, but you might as well take the feedback, because if there's a reason you're posting the stuff, you might as well put, whatever, like add that layer or add layers as you're able to. Not necessarily that one, but like say, that could be something I imagine too when you're watching somebody at like a match or some kind of running, something where they're moving with a firearm. And yeah, if you're trying to keep up with an horizon and follow the person and actually pay attention to what they're doing, right? Because nobody just cares that a person's running around in a video. You're trying to pay attention to what they're doing.
Right.
And it makes it all that much more confusing with what they're doing in their hands when, yeah, it's just like the camera person. You feel like the camera person's about to trip or something all the time.
Yeah. There's an art to it, right? That's why that's why, if you're,
that's why gimbals exist, right? To get rid of
camera.
all that.
Yeah. But if you're, or rigs, I mean, if you're talking about camera crews, like on TV sets and shows and movies and stuff like that, there's whole crews and stuff with, that do nothing but set up the infrastructure to house the cameras. And then there's people, you go to literally art school for that kind of stuff, right? Like that's a, school for the arts to learn how to work a camera and what matters and what doesn't. And so I'm not privy to all that. I don't understand, I don't understand it on that type of an educational level, but, yeah, it's just weird. There's something there, because you're like me. Once I noticed that and I was focused in on it, I'm like, okay, that's weird, because like this TV show ran for 10 episodes, super successful. And if you really pay attention, the camera work as far as being steady is crappy. It's but nobody's paying attention to it. So the comedy, the dialogue, what the person does on the screen, right? And so they just don't spend a lot of time and effort in the rigs and everything they need for those perfect, flawless shots, because like, hey, we can cover it up with other things, I guess.
Now, I don't know if this thing intentionally, we asked the robot 25 most useful technological items for modern content creation, and this is what we're going through backwards order.
Yeah, I think it
So,
doubled up.
well, I guess I was going to say, I don't know if it's priority or not. This one's a little bit more specific. The other one said a drawing tablet, and that's the $35 thing that like I have. A tablet with stylus for digital art and design is more like what I was saying. I wasn't sure what they were describing before. So this is the hundreds of dollar thing that looks like an iPad, but has like an electric pencil with it, and you draw on it. So it's like a magical notepad, and you draw in color on it. And then it has Adobe on it. And then you can also set it up on a Mac, at least. You can set it up where you're drawing on it in front of you, or it's actually can be very big in front of you, like an easel or something. But then your computer is behind there. You're just drawing right in Photoshop and doing all your editing and stuff. They're basically amazing. They're like what you would hope computers could get to one day, as far as being able to draw on a surface in front of you and then have the colors just magically appear. It's as if you put down a television screen on the table and started drawing on the television screen. And it was applying right there and not up on the TV screen in front of you. So that end of it, having it at the top end of the priority is crazy for content creation in general. I mean, it's completely necessary for some digital stuff. Like if you were going to do a comic book in 2023, I think that's the way you would do it, as opposed to drawing it on paper and going through all that extra process. But for somebody who's making YouTube videos, it's like one of the last things you're going to need. So I know this list wasn't YouTubers or anything, so I don't know how it prioritized, but I'm going to say this one, since it's specifying the more expensive, more elaborate of them, not necessary unless, and this is where like a 3D printer, I was saying that if you had a kid with a 3D printer, or if you had a kid, that I think a 3D printer is necessary. I think the tablet like I'm talking about, where you have a form factor of a pen, on draw on the screen, if you give one of them $35 item to a kid and they dig it and they can't get enough of it, I think the investment in what I'm talking about, a tablet essentially with an electric pencil, is worth it, because the what I've seen people be able to do with digital art and the ability to do digital art, give that to a kid. Like, at least let the kid explore that and have it, own it as a skill set. Because if they do develop it and run it, to use that at all, there's not like untold fortunes guaranteed, but there's certainly more, I would assume, a more interesting career making really good money than doing something like, I don't want to say, doing something like engineering. I could just see engineering being kind of boring compared to drawing all the time. I could be wrong, but anyway, I think that's very low priority unless, again, you've got a youngster with an ambition towards doing this stuff, and then I think it would be one of those things that's totally worth the investment. Anything to update that one? I guess we could keep booking. The next one, it's going to go backwards order. Audio software first, Audacity or Adobe Audition. I almost never open anything in audio software. I have Adobe, so I have it, but I almost never use it. And except for
I use
listening,
Audacity. Yeah, I don't use anything Adobe really except for Acrobat and Photoshop, but and that app on the phone. Um, but I use Audacity occasionally. Um, if I've got to like mix some audio or whatever. Um, but that's, yeah.
Audacity's free, right? And it's essentially, you take your audio file, you put it in there. If you need to get rid of the ums and ahs, it can do that pretty efficiently. You can have 3 or 4 people talking, and it can, I don't know what the word is, but essentially bring all their volumes to like an equal level, so that it brings the loud people down and the quiet people up. It can do all that kind of stuff with clicks of a button. It's pretty powerful. I just don't do it because it's an extra step. But if I was good, I would pull down the audio from something like this, the audio from this video, put it into an Audacity or Adobe Audition, which is essentially the same stuff, just different brands, and then do all the things I just said, plus, right, bring the, I don't know what the words are, the echo down and the sustain and all the other things to make it just sound more good, right? Like louder, crisper, deeper, more easy to understand us. But how long does it take you to do an audio file? Another 5 or 10 minutes, maybe more. So
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I'm not putting, I don't know what the words are. Like, I don't feel bad when I put stuff up that isn't perfectly production, even if it was going out to 1 million people. Like, it'd be okay if it had better production, but considering I know I'm putting out quantity over quality, I'm okay with, the occasional thing being less quality than, because the people that are putting out quality, with the rare exceptions, are just putting out very few pieces of content.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Let's see. Gear Reports using Audacity. Worthwhile Fun is saying I have Cyberlink's Audio Director and Wave Editor that come with Power Director.
Oh,
I think I remember using those.
Yeah, I've used the Cyberlink Audio, the Wave Editor before. Yep, a lot actually.
But
I've used but Power Director. I used Power Director forever, and all the tools it entails, like the Wave Editor, a lot. When I got the new laptop several years ago, 4 years ago now, I don't know how long it's been that I've had this. The video card technology was so new that even the newer version of Power Director could not utilize the hardware acceleration of the graphics card in this thing. And so unfortunately, I had to find a piece of editing software that would work with the new tech in my laptop. And so I had to move away from Power Director for the most part. Now it is still on my desktop. I don't use it nearly as much as I once did, because I used to use it a lot. But every now and then I still use Power Director, and the Wave Editor, yeah, agree, is a for audio. The Wave Editor is an awesome tool.
What is it? What's a wave editor?
Well, it's like Audacity. I mean, honestly, it's very similar, but it's got a lot of preset tools and things that can clean up audio and sample stuff. I mean, it's to me it's Audacity. And of course it comes with like Power Director and all that stuff. You got to pay for it, where Audacity's free. But to me, the Wave Editor, I don't know that it has any extra features that Audacity doesn't, but the layout, like the learning curve and everything, it's very simple to use, in my opinion, compared to Audacity. Wave Editor is much more simple to use and understand and navigate.
It's like getting a scientific calculator, and all you need to do is normal calculations. It's just easier to get a regular calculator and not have to deal with 1,000 extra buttons for no reason.
Yeah, maybe.
I find a lot of the softwares that, like, here's the 90% of things you never need, but here they are all the time. You know, like Adobe is like that. Some of the other professional stuff, like here's every control, because sometimes you need all the controls right in front of you, but normal people like need the stuff on a regular calculator. They don't need all that other stuff. And that's what usually the more normal, less expensive software just has the regular buttons. Yeah, we are aware that we've been online for a while. I have my co-pilot telling me that we've been online for a while. Next one is video editing. I'm going to keep going. I'm getting yelled at. Video editing software, Adobe Premiere, Final Cut. Same thing, right? I don't know if there's anything really to add except that ditto everything we just said, except with video, like, right? There are other ones, the video editing software. You can get Adobe After Effects, for example. There's the thing like you're talking about Adobe, what is that thing, the new one called the app you're talking about, Adobe Effects?
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but whatever. So there are some other things that make video host or video editing even
Adobe
easier.
Express is what I've
Express. Yeah, that's the one. TN, who said he was leaving. I use Final Cut Pro to edit my audio levels where I need to increase voices or lower background noise. I wonder if you could lower dogs' snortings.
got. Yeah, no
I've
kidding,
also
right?
done this in GarageBand, splitting my audio out and using. And that's the thing. As we use things, they just tell the computers to watch us use them over and over and over, and they see the patterns, and then they figure out, oh, okay, I can remove the background faster than that dumbass human can. And then they make apps that do the stuff way faster than us. This kind of stuff that we're learning, I hesitate to say quit learning it, because you're still going to have to know it for a minute or two. But pretty soon we're going to just have apps that go click, click, click and do all these things that we need. But go ahead.
Oh, I was going to speak to the overall when it's video editing software. There's so many out there, and at the end of the day, I know everybody's got their personal favorites and whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, as a content creator, I mean, most anything you pick is going to be able to significantly get you by. Now if we were talking about freelancing with photography earlier, or whatever. If you're freelancing with like making videos for companies or organizations or things like that, that may be, if you were doing the fiber game or something, then yeah, you probably want to pay for something and it'd be a really robust program with a whole lot of features and plugins and options and things like that, so you can do anything and everything under the sun. But if you're just talking about, hey, got this passion, I want to create some videos, I want to get them out there on the internet, how many people are just turning on a freaking camera, and it's like literally they turn on the camera, they do their thing, they're not putting a lot of thought into anything. There's no edits, there's no intros, outros, they don't really adjust anything. So a lot of time can be spent, I guess what I'm saying is trying to figure out time spent figuring out what video editor you're going to use. There's an argument, in my opinion, to be made. Is that time better spent just looking the features over of several different ones, picking one and running with it, And is that time better spent with the learning curve, right? Rather than just trying to, you can think things to death sometimes, right? And especially new creators that are just starting out. We see this all the time where, oh man, I gotta have the money to buy this software and this camera and do this and do that and do this. And it's like, you really don't. Um, to T and Pickers out there saying a little bit, and I know he was talking earlier about microphone options. This is another thing where we're talking audio or video, okay? Because we talked about audio editor just a second ago with Wave editor and that sort of stuff. Now we're talking about video. Um, Garbage in, garbage out. Like source makes a difference. Like, if you record, you know, um, if you record an LP, an album, it's going to sound like an LP or an album. It's not going to sound like a CD. Like it's because that's the source, right? Like if you take and you screen capture you've got a capture device and you screen capture a VCR tape from the early 80s, right? To your computer, like it's not going to be, I mean, okay, yeah, you could blow it up to 720 or 1080 or whatever, but the quality's going to suck because the original thing, the quality sucked, right? So the better you can do, whether it's your audio or your video, and this is where the lighting we talked about comes into play, and a bunch of stabilization, a bunch of the things we've talked about so far. It's kind of neat that I guess maybe we went backwards on this list because it allows us to say this. Like a lot of the little things that we've talked about, if you can get those right from the jump, right? Then that's less editing and less you have to try to do in software and fix things in post-production. There's always going to be certain things that you've got to do in post-production. I mean, you're going to screw up on this or that, or, something's happened and a light didn't work quite like you thought it was going to work, or the microphone cuts out, or like Snob said, you get some interference or something weird happens. But um, for the most part, try to get good source material from the recording phase and get that as good as you can possibly get it, and then that will cut down, and you won't have the need for a lot of those extra tools and taking those extra steps, and more importantly, spending all the extra time, right? If you've got gear that every time you go out and film, you've got to film anyway, you got to hit record and stand there and talk and do your thing or whatever, right? If you're collecting good audio or video while you're doing that, and then you don't have to spend that 30 minutes trying to tweak this or tweak that in editing, 30 minutes for video can add up quick. Like, what can you do with that time, right? Can you work on other aspects of your video? Can you work on your thumbnail? Can you work on distribution? Can you work on promotion? Where can you spend that time, right? So just keep that in mind. The whole garbage in, garbage in. I'm not saying garbage, but potentially little issues.
Quality in, quality out. Put it that way.
Yeah. That's a better term. The quality going in is going to dictate the quality going out. Yeah. Exactly.
No, that's a good point. And that's the difference between anything, like, hey, I want to eat a good sandwich, or I want a sandwich. So going to go buy, bologna, and then you're going to get a bologna sandwich. If you go buy fancy blah, 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 then you're going to get a fancy sandwich.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're gonna get sandwich bread, or you're gonna get some kind of artisan roll.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's all a sandwich. But yeah, the time you spend prep work. I mean, cooking, right? Like marinating your meats or your whatever it is before you cook them. That prep time. Like you spend the time there, and you don't have to try to add weird seasoning after the fact and other things.
So TN is saying, in video editing software, let me recommend Video Shop Pro on your phone for editing shorts and vertical stuff. It does great. I'll have to check it out because that's the thing. Then again, when there's a task that people do repetitively, often apps are quicker to react using small tech to accomplish the specific task than whatever the process is in the big software getting macroed, or whatever the words are, to make more of a button click in the big software. Now it does happen, like Photoshop, like we talked about, the stuff that Clover is talking about, being able to click a button and remove a background. That's just effectively going through a bunch of processes through the tools in Photoshop, but they figured out a way to use the robot brains to just figure out what we want and click it in one click. A lot of times that comes from apps who figure it out first. So yes, I agree. I'm going to check this out. I appreciate the suggestion. But then also for people that are new, you go nuts trying to keep up with every new thing, right? Especially when we start talking apps. It was bad enough with software. Look at how many pieces of software we've talked about. All we've talked about was audio, video at this point, and we haven't even talked about photo yet, which we're about to hit. So there's so many options in software, which takes an actual while to get created, and then apps take way less time. So there's it being flexible, being adaptable is 100% of everything. Like if you get too concrete, not on the internet. Concrete does not work in much business, but definitely not on the internet. And there's some things that are kind of useful for a long time. They have long runs, but nothing is permanent out here. Nothing. So I guess that's the advice too, that, whatever we're working on, 6 months from now, we're having a different conversation. Well, maybe not 6 months. Definitely 2 years from now, we're having a different conversation though, right?
Right.
Oh, that's what Street Fires is saying. Don't need all the fancy stuff to start, especially since we're new at filming. Honestly, they aren't going to be upset in the beginning. Yep, just start. Exactly. And see what you like. Some people dig the audio. Some people dig the editing. Some people dig the filming. Some people dig some other part of it, right? There's all kinds of levels to it that we may even hit. And you're never going to know what parts you like or which parts you don't. I guess something we haven't talked about either is that you don't have to do any of this. You can outsource or just do things like Clover said. If you get good enough audio, you're never editing audio. If you get good enough at filming, you're never going to edit very often. Or at least you can remove that, need really a lot, or not completely.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you learn like your pauses in between, and that's one of the biggest things. Like, hey, we hadn't got to that or anything else, but if you're doing video, especially is having those pauses. You can very easily in your editing softwares, you can very easily see a pause, right, in what you're saying, a second or two. You can very easily see that. Whereas if you just ramble on and on and on and on and on and on without a pause every now and then, it makes it much harder to chop and edit and throw those transitions in and do other things. So again, it's not just about the quality, which I agree, quality in, quality out, as we've said, but it's not really about the quality, but the execution, right? Your plan of execute your plan and how you execute, I guess, can affect your editing as well.
Yeah, you can have a camera that doesn't do good with audio, but as long as you film when it's not windy and there's no airplanes going by, then you're still going to be okay.
Yep, exactly. Makes it a little more difficult, right? But yeah,
it gives you a window instead of just being able to go whenever you want, and that's sort of the difference, I guess.
Because what happens, that's a lot of my thing. Like I pay attention to the sky, like, and stuff, because I don't want to wrestle shadows and glares and other things a lot of times. But then I'm like, okay, there's no rain on this day, I'm good, and blah 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 blah. And then like something happens, and like the weather changes, or a piece of gear goes down, or it's like crap. What do you do?
So we didn't even hit this one, but the next one. So there's the trifecta, I guess. Your audio, your video, and your
pictures,
your images.
Yeah.
So they say graphic image software, graphic design software.
Yep.
And they've got Photoshop and Canva. Obviously, there's a billion more.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I say all software falls into 3 places right now. And that's paid. You own the software, you put it on your computer, it's software. Sometimes it's on the cloud, but usually, you're somehow interfacing with it and there's something that you paid for and you've got. Then there's the free open source type of stuff. Again, usually you got to download it, install it. Rarely that can't really be the cloud because of the whole concept of it, but most of the time that's capable and comparable to the costly stuff, but has its pluses and minuses. Then you've got the app versions nowadays, the mobile versions, which are kind of pay to play usually, which are often free to start, and then the more you want, you add to it, or they're, you know, the intermediate cost, and then the more expensive, you know, to get the branding off or whatever their things are. So in general, if you were to pay, you're either going to pay for a package like Adobe, which we keep talking about, which is a company that wanted to get into the multimedia software. So they buy other companies and they become a conglomerate of many softwares that are capable and useful, but like Macintosh or like, I don't know, Tesla or something, like they're like Harley, maybe they're kind of proprietary. What are you doing? Hold on. Q-tip eater. So unlike you know, some of these brands where you either kind of got to drink the whatever, which isn't even the case. It's not like once you learn Adobe, you can just jump around between Adobe products using them. They're almost impossible to do. You have to learn each one separately. Like they're very little of them are the same except for their names. So, but you do pay for them all at once, and that makes it, I guess, a better deal or whatever compared to if you were going to go the pay route. You either go with a conglomerate like Adobe, or you start paying for each one separately, and that can be frustrating. Now, you just said the one that you liked, the video one from back in the day that you guys liked, Cyber or whatever it was.
Yeah, the CyberLink Power Director.
They make a suite also, so you can get into the Cyber Director stuff, or it's not Cyber Director, but the Cyber Suite, and get quite a bit of the software, and it's comparable to the Adobe stuff, just a little easier to use for most people because it's not as involved and nowhere near as expensive usually. Anyway, I guess I'm getting off in a tangent, but the software is a decision, and somewhere along the line you're either going to decide, I'm going to try to buy all of it at once and just have all of it and explore it, or I'm going to do it like a la carte, and I'm going to buy this when I need it and I'm going to get that when I need it. Or you're going to say, I'm going open source. And I think these are three decisions. Maybe even there's another one if you go with apps at this point, but you're either going to go open source, I'm paying for something like Adobe or Cyber, or I'm just going to hit these things and pay for them a la carte. Out of those, and then I guess the apps, you know, I'm just going to use apps for everything. You do everything on my phone. Is there a path that you'd recommend, or one that you wouldn't, or is it just like, good luck, there's 4 different ways to do this or more? Do you have would you recommend any of them?
Any what, the softwares?
The directions, like, would you recommend paying for all of them and just get it over with, going to each one a la carte and dealing with them when you need to, or going open source and just, because if you go open source and just kind of get over that hurdle, then you can accomplish anything because everything's available open source. You just have to be willing to. It's like Linux. Once you know Linux, you're not afraid of it anymore.
So I'm an all of the above person, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's
So,
a
like,
valid fifth
like
option.
there are certain things that, okay, it's valid. I see the value here. You know, it's worth it. I'll pay for this. There's other things that's like, you know what? I'm not paying for this. Let me see if I can go find a free version. No more than I use it, no more than I need out of it. Like, it's just not worth it, right? And then sometimes I can get away with an older version. Like, my Photoshop is like CS5, I think, or is it CS3? I don't even remember, but it's old. Hang on, I got it up. I can tell you. Help and about. Just curious about Photoshop. CS4. I'm sorry. So I'm running on Photoshop CS4. Uh, that's how old of a version of Photoshop I'm running, and it still works, right? Like, I don't have, obviously, there are added features in the newer versions that, you know, they're this is what, a decade old, at least a decade old, if not longer. You know, and in the newer versions, there's obviously extra features and things that are simpler to do, and, you know, yeah, okay, but, you know, what I've got that I paid for years ago is still working. So, like, why, for what I use it for? So why spend the money? Why mess with that, right? Unless it comes to a point. This is something that we haven't discussed today, but it's something that we have to keep in mind as creators: is spending money is not a bad thing. Um, you know, there are times, especially if you get into your revenue generation, and, you know, you've got, you know, you get sponsors, or you know, you farm out advertising or whatever the case may be. Well, you know, either you're going to take, you know, you're going to give 30% of that to the government, right? And so why not take some of that 30% and invest back into the channel? And maybe you decide, okay, I don't really need that piece of software, right? Like I don't need for me, I don't need the latest version of Photoshop or whatever, but I need to spend a little money, right? Like there's no sense in, just writing a check to the IRS if I can, get some new software and the money's going to leave out of my pocket either way, is what I'm saying, right? Why not get some newer upgraded software out of the deal, right? Rather than just throw away money to the IRS. So there's that aspect of looking at things as well. A lot of people see it as especially when you're starting out. I get it. You've got no money. You're making no ad revenue from YouTube to speak of. You don't have sponsors. Maybe you're not freelancing and making money that way. You don't really have any money coming in. So in that sense, a totally different situation. But once you get to a point, right, funneling money back into your projects is something that you definitely need to be paying attention to for multiple reasons.
Man, there's so much. We're 2 hours and a half, and we're getting to the beginning of the list, I guess. So I'm going to stop talking about graphic software. We'll probably we could definitely have a whole one on just the graphic stuff if we bring Canva and the Adobe Express in, and then Photoshop. And I mean, Clover doesn't even use Illustrator, but Illustrator is insanely useful. And then things like GIMP and I haven't used it in a while. The other one, the fake Photoshop or the open source Photoshop, is super popular also. Anyway, and super good, like super useful. So that's all I did is just say that I'm not gonna get into all that because we could do a whole other show on it. The next one is external hard drives for data backup, and there's thumb drives and SD cards, which are useful and necessary to have around. External drives, though, essentially the size of a pack of cigarettes or something, USB cord hanging out of it, plug it in straight to your phone, straight to your computer, back everything up. I think that's foreign for some people. So many people use the cloud for all of this or don't even think about it. They'd say it's it's on my phone. Is it on your phone or is it in the cloud and your phone is your terminal to the cloud? So having it on a hard drive means you own it. It's in your hands. Like no matter what goes on, as long as you can get it off that hard drive again, it's yours. You got it. Certain data, privacy-wise, and just access to it. Anyway, anything you want to add to external hard drives? He's muted. He might be on the phone or something.
No, I'm here. External hard drive. Yeah, you're not flipping the things around. So.
Oh, okay, that's what happened. There we go.
It's like throwing me off. External hard drives. Yes, 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 and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. Just yes.
My thing is I get one every year for SHOT Show, and then it pretty much lasts me the year. And then I get a new one at SHOT Show, and then it lasts me the year. And I get a new one.
Yeah. I just got one in not too terribly long ago. I guess it was post SHOT Show. I got one. I needed to back up my laptop. I realized that all the stacks upon stacks of other external drives and even raw drives. I have raw drives that I have adapters for where I can plug them in and use them like an external. But I even I had no space to be able to clear my laptop off and back it up, and I like to do that every now and then. I just like to clear space and everything on it. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much stuff you're backing up, but you can never have too much backup. You never know what's going to go south, what's going to go wrong, and it can happen in an instant. When you're talking about computers and tech and electronics, it can happen at an instant, with no warning signs. Like, I've seen that. I came up in the computer world with that type of a business for 20 years. So I've seen it happen where it's like the screen goes black one day and like it's all gone, and you're like, holy crap! Like it didn't, and it probably did give signs. It just didn't give big enough signs that I recognized there was a problem. You know what I mean? Um, but seemingly it happened without any type of warning, and I've seen that happen over and over and over again. So, yeah, multiple reasons to back up. Number one, obviously, is so you don't lose any information. But the second is to keep things cleared off of your devices, right? Whether that's a phone, whether that's a laptop, whether that's a computer, the less space you're taking up and all of that, um, the better things are going to run. And it's especially so you're going to increase the longevity. If you're talking about flash memory, solid state drives, things like that, conventional drives, not necessarily. Conventional old school magnetic drives, not necessarily. But if you're talking about most of the newer tech when it comes to data storage, um, those things, the life cycle of those, they don't have moving parts, right, or anything like that. The life cycle is strictly dictated by the number of times information is wrote to that storage device, right? So the more you use that device, um, it does wear, right? It doesn't wear out in a physical sense, but in a virtual sense, maybe, or something, right? It wears out. But when you're talking about those types of storage devices, one way that you mitigate that, the more space you have free, the less the odds that the system is riding over the top of something else that already exists, right? And so, um, when you have sections of a drive, and I'm getting real nerdy with this, I apologize, but when you've got a drive, you've got sections on that drive where the data is stored, right? And that's where the wear, quote unquote, wear comes into play, is when you write over the top of nothing gets deleted in a drive, first of all, put it to you that way. Like, you delete something, the data is technically still there. It just marks that section as, hey, you can write over this with something else. Like, this guy didn't, you don't need
Think
to
of it as like a piece of paper. You write on a piece of paper and then with a pencil, and then you scribble it off with an eraser.
erase
You
it.
can
It's
still see what it said
still
there.
kind of there. Yeah. Yep.
But then
Yep,
when
yep,
you
yep.
write over it again, okay, you can kind of see what's there, but there was something written there before. But now you
Yep.
erase that and write over it a third time. Well, it's getting kind of difficult. You erase that and
Yep.
write over it a fifth time. Come on, man. And you erase that and write over it a
Exactly.
sixth time. Is that a 7? Is that a 1? What's going on? And
That's
you erase that and
exactly
write an
right.
8.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep. That's exactly the correct analogy. Good job. Exactly the correct analogy. So that's what's happening with the virtual, quote unquote, virtual wear on those types of drives. So, but how do you do that? You do that by keeping actual space clean, right, on it. So, um, and it's been proven too that solid state drives run faster, with a minimum of like 30 to 40% free space. They're going to run faster. So,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But I just do it because I'm worried about everything Clover just said is a thing. Plus, let's say lightning strikes, literally, and now
Oh
your
yeah.
data's dead. It's nice to have
Oh,
a copy of it over there on a shelf that wasn't
dude.
plugged in.
Yeah, you just hit it. I was waiting on you to say plugged in. I've got a master main, so I've got a shelf. It's in my little office. It used to be my office anyway in the house. And I've got a shelf that probably has, I don't even know, 30 terabytes easily of external drives, and they're all plugged in, right? But they're all on a main breaker that they're in. And so, like, they get turned on like when I need them, but that way I can shut power down to them completely. And of course, wires are run behind shelves and desks and other things, right? So it's not easy just to unplug them. But yeah, to isolate them from electricity, because that would suck. You think, oh, I'm backing all my stuff up. I'm backing all my stuff up. And, if you've got a drive that powers its, gets power by being plugged into the wall, and you're backing your stuff up and you get a lightning strike that kills your computer plus the external drive, you're screwed. So that's one
I don't want to
reason
jinx
I've come.
anybody. That's only happened twice in my career doing stuff, but that was enough that I worry about it.
Yeah. So I've got to where, and back in the day, the ones I'm talking about that were literally the size of a really large paperback book, or something like that, or maybe even a really large, the size of a, twice the size of a Bible. I don't even know. That plugged into the wall. Those were like common. Like portable drives weren't that common, and they were more expensive. They used like a laptop drive in them, right? And so they were considerably more expensive back in the day. So I've got a lot of the older drives that plug in, but for years now, I buy the portable ones that they run off. You plug them into the USB port, and they're powered off the USB port. And that's one of the reasons I do that is I don't have to worry about, you know, I mean, unless they're plugged into the laptop or the computer when the lightning strike hits, they're in no jeopardy of being damaged, right? So, and just stack them on a shelf or whatever, make sure they're labeled or they're marked in some way. Um, so yeah, just definitely, I'm glad you said that. You need to pay attention to that.
Right. The next one is the 3 left. The next one is laptop or desktop computer. And it seems kind of weird that they'd put that on the list. I guess it's necessary for somebody who's like, well, do I need paintbrushes or something? And then I guess it's also necessary for somebody who might go, I'm going to do this on my phone. Like I can just do all this on my phone. So Foss earlier had said I do very little on the phone. I prefer to sit at a desktop. And I don't even know if this is a thing or not, but there are not things you're going to do on your phone, period. Like you're never going to see a desktop layout worth a darn. You can emulate it on a phone. You can definitely do a phone on a computer because it's easy to scale down, but you're not going to scale up to see a good version of it. You're never going to create a whole desktop version experience on a phone unless you've got so much desktop experience that you're able to just, do the translation backwards or whatever. But people that are starting from scratch and don't have a lot of experience, if you try to emulate something on your desktop from the phone, it's going to look bad. And it's just, it's going to be not good. So I think that pretty much not everything, but pretty much most things are better off when you start with a computer and then drag them to a phone, unless you're talking like short video or something, which doesn't really matter one way or the other. But most stuff that we're building, websites and apps and projects and stuff, even an app that's going to run on a phone, live on a phone, be designed to use on a phone, you're never going to want to do that scripting on a phone. It's horrible. Even if you put this phone sideways, like trying to do scripting and stuff, like the stuff that you do to actually build the thing, you're going to end up with a computer. So if this is in here because someone's thinking, I can just do this all on my phone, I think that's unwise still. And I can't imagine getting beyond that yet, unless you count renting a computer or like just borrowing people's computers to do stuff and logging into accounts. Can you even do it that way? I don't even know if you could do it that way. It would be super complicated to not have a computer and just log into all your accounts and not have that hard drive. Not having a computer would mean like a bunch of the stuff we talked about not having, like all that software and stuff isn't available on phones. The mics and things, the editors and things. Anyway,
it especially in the sense of YouTube, and it gets even more problematic if you're talking about alternative platform, right? So anything other than YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, obviously there's apps. Most of what you can do on those platforms, you can do from mobile, you can do from the apps.
And Instagram, you have to do it from an app on a phone, actually. But that's an exception to the rule kind of thing.
Yeah, anyway. So most of that stuff. Once you get off into, some of the audio podcast platforms, once you get off into the alternatives like, Rumble or Odyssey or Jooxi or Brighteon or whatever, like those don't even have app support, right? Like, so they don't have apps. So you're looking at, you got to go on your phone and go through the browser, and, that's can be a pain in the butt. So for the purposes of, if nothing else, and this applies a lot to YouTube, there's only so much in the YouTube Creator Studio in the mobile version. There's only so much there. They've done a lot better over the years at upgrading that and getting a lot of useful features in that. But as far as management of your channel, of your content and everything, You know, I don't know how people do it without a laptop or a desktop. Now, maybe they don't know what they don't know. So maybe they're not doing things the same as me. They're not doing them to the right level to realize yet that, oh crap, like, you know, if I have a laptop, oh man, I can access this and that, and I can do this, and it makes life so much easier, right? Even if it's just something like a Chromebook or a, you know, like it doesn't take much. Like if you're going to edit on your laptop or desktop, obviously, you know, memory, video card, there's things that you need hardware wise, that sort of stuff. But as far as the management side of things, right? You can get by with a, you could honestly, you could probably get by with a, maybe even a, well, no, you couldn't because of the whole browser issue. Uh, but especially maybe you could get by with a tablet, but you know, I kind of doubt it. Can't doubt you could do the same things. But
Tablets consider themselves mobile, so the internet, you're
yeah,
either mobile or not, and
yeah,
that can
yeah,
then the browser
yeah,
is going to flip to mobile, and it can
you're
be an
still
issue. You know?
dealing with it. Yeah, you're still dealing with a mobile browser, and you don't have the mouse capability necessarily, and some of the things like that.
Yeah,
So
that's a big piece.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, for management purposes, and I've always said this, like I've got no problem if you can do the vast majority of your stuff on a phone. You're better than me. More power to you. Um, but from a management standpoint, I advise everybody. I mean, go find you a used, secondhand, you know, refurbished, whatever, a couple $100 or something off eBay laptop. You know, if that's what you need to, you know, need to do. I mean, you don't have to go all out and get a $1,500 laptop or something like that for managing your channel. Something cheap will get it done, or
That's
something
a good
older, I
point
should
too.
say, will get it done.
That's a good point. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about is it needs hardware, needs some decent engine under the hood on a laptop, but not everything. And you can definitely
Yeah.
manage through browsers, essentially just getting online and a capable
Yep.
browser that isn't going to crash every 5 seconds, like a really old computer with an old operating system is going to work on old internet. And it's kind of like having an old phone. I don't even know what to call it. Like having an old Model T car. Yeah, it'll ride on the street and everything, but it's not going to keep up with the cars today, and it's going to be slow and break down, and you're going to have trouble and stuff. So, yeah, if you had a capable, even a car from the 70s or 80s is going to be more capable than an old Model T or something. So as long as you have something capable, you're going to be able to navigate most of everything we've talked to. It's just that you won't be pulling loads like the big softwares and stuff that we were talking about.
Well, it's not going to be as comfortable either.
And that's a good point. And then you're going to be waiting a lot. It's a lot of analogies there, but that's something else, I guess, we didn't talk about when we were talking about the softwares. We were saying, like, in these ideal worlds where your hardware is just capable, period. Like, it's, you know, you've got this able hardware. What are you going to use about all the software in the menu? A lot of times your hardware is going to dictate what software you're using. And it might be nice. You might want to use this software, but your hardware says you're using this other software instead. And vice versa. If you got too big a computer, you don't get to use the little stuff anymore. It just barely runs. I mean, it's kind of the problem. You have to have big fancy software to run on a big fancy computer sometimes. Okay, second to last one. I can disagree with this one also. I have no idea why this one is number 2 on the list. I don't even know why it's on the list, honestly. Portable microphone. I mean, we already had the external whatever.
That's funny. Yeah,
wireless.
that's like a double thing. That's wireless, so I don't know. Unless they're talking about like a voice recorder.
I think they're talking about like
type
what I'm
thing.
talking into, like a headset, like an actual microphone, as opposed to just using the mic on your laptop. I guess I'll shut up because it is necessary to have a microphone. Even I can acknowledge that. I don't even like it, but
Yeah,
you got to have a microphone.
yeah, separate microphone than your on your
Laptop.
device or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so
Possibly.
get rid of the portable and let's just say a good microphone. And it doesn't have to be high quality, it just has to be more a different microphone than what's on your device. Not that your devices aren't capable, it's just that they're not perfect. And then throw living in rural and having slow internet. Oh man, I definitely first world here. I've lived in Tucson for so long, and because of the Titan silos and stuff, we've always had amazing internet, at least available to us in town. And, you know, because of that, most of town has okay internet. So I didn't think about that, but that's another reason why some of these softwares might look nice, but you're not getting them, or there's no point in running it if you can't deliver the high quality video up reasonably. I do remember back in the day some strategies for that though, even at SHOT Show in the days when there wasn't good or fast internet like there is now. We would edit and do everything and then go over to UNLV and then go hang out in front of the library and upload on their Wi-Fi, which was way fast compared to any hotel or anything. So sometimes libraries will have internet and schools will have internet. And often, what am I trying to say? Like restaurants and businesses that are trying to appeal to customers that might sit around, coffee shops, things like that, might have internet that's available. So even bars and stuff these days. So sometimes when you're fighting internet speeds, think of it like recycling bottles or something. You're going to collect some files that aren't super critical. And then when you go into town, turn on a phone that has these files on an upload and just let them upload while you're in eating dinner or whatever. And you come out and 8 videos have uploaded or something.
Yeah.
That's what we would do when we're traveling, you know, do stuff on the road. And then when you get to where you're going, let the hotel upload everything.
Yeah, I've
Then
been lucky to live in a rural area but have really, really good internet for decades now.
are you like, is it just coincidence or was there like something around that?
So
brought
there's
internet
a
out
no,
somewhere?
I mean, we're on a telephone co-op and they've always been like really, I mean, because they're a co-op, I mean, they have to spend money, right?
They're not
Like
interested in trying to cut every
it's
penny all the time.
it's not like a for profit, right? Like they have to spend money. They either have to pay dividends or spend money. Like it's basically what they've got to do, right? So, and it's a co-op, so like they were paying dividends before like the internet was really a thing. We would get a check every year, you know what I mean, from the phone co-op. Um, Literally get a check from them. And then they had a meeting, and they had already started their dial up, and they were moving into like a satellite internet that was through, I can't even remember who it was, but this was like in the very early 2000s. Like satellite was like the only broadband at the time, really was satellite to speak of. And so, and I say that, was it or was there? Nah, there was cable. There was cable internet, but we don't got cable internet out here. But anyway, um, so at one of their meetings, because it obviously a co-op, they have regular meetings and stuff. They had decided, hey, we want to shift over and we want to take, instead of doing the dividends, what do we think about taking that money, putting that money back in a fund for upgrades and that sort of thing. And then over the years, of course, the government just hemorrhages money. We all know that. But over the years, the government, whether it's Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, whoever, um, always throwing money out there for expansion of digital services and internet and utilities and other things. And so they've also been able to get grants, government money for that to add to the fund to do things. So they've been really good to not, like I said, they're not like hoarding profits or anything. Like they legit will spend the money and upgrade systems. So we've always had, uh, not that we've got big cities in this county. My entire county, the largest city is like 14 or 15,000 people, the largest, and the second largest is only about 5 or 6. But yeah, we're way out in the freaking country, in the middle of the woods and whatever here. And we've always had, and to this day, we still do have better internet than the people that are in town. So um, sometimes being rural has its perks. When you're covered by a company like that or a co-op or something that actually cares.
And if you don't get ripped up by like weather, storms, that kind of thing, or like, there's places where sprawl just rips into infrastructures. I had some experience with doing that kind of stuff back in the day. But back east, or in towns also, things are just such patchwork and quilt work. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I mean? Like such a jumble of stuff, and stuff can get disconnected and the packets are flying all around, and there's mechanisms that you can pretty much pull a line out sometimes and it shouldn't matter, but because it's happening constantly all over the place, that compared to the country where unless there's a problem with the physical lines, there's just the traffic is so much slower that I hear what you're saying. We ran into that situation quite often, actually, where people who are living on, with cable back in the day, you'd get X amount of stuff going out to a point, and then assuming that a bunch of people would connect to that cable eventually. So until a bunch of people connected to it, the few people that were connected were super fast, And then as more and more people got connected, they'd call in and go, "What the hell? It's going slow."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sorry, buddy. You're sharing that highway with everybody, and you're not the only one on the highway anymore.
How many more we got? We're getting
This
close.
is the last one.
Nice.
One. High quality camera. It was ridiculous. So again, this is a robot, and robots don't know nothing.
Like,
I mean, you need a quality camera, but I think you need a phone. I don't know.
I think it needs to be. I would disagree. I think high quality camera is accurate. Like, I don't think just quality, right? Like,
okay, I guess we're dependent. Like, if I think of a phone being high quality, so I guess, or no, I think of a phone being quality, and if you're saying better than a phone, I say no. But if you're saying a phone is high quality, then I say we're saying yes. Okay.
I think a modern phone is high quality.
Okay, then we're on the same
high
track.
quality as far as
I
camera.
agree.
Yeah.
I think I just meant like an additional one, like you need something besides your phone. No.
Well, quality can be just that it holds up, that it functions properly, that it doesn't mean that the output is going to be good. I mean, there are not all cameras. I mean, when you're dealing with the sensors and just the tech, right? And whether that's in a phone or it's a standalone unit, they're just not all created equal. Some are quality camera in the sense that it's from a major manufacturer, it's well built, but then, I compare that to what's already in my phone, right? And if my phone is better than this $400 camera from Sony, right? Does that mean the Sony is bad quality? Like, that doesn't mean it's bad quality. It just means that my phone is a higher quality. So that's my justification for the wordplay, I guess, there.
No, I hear you there. And if you're looking at it in that way, you take any of these things back to 1950 and they're magic, right?
Yeah. So, you remember the early days of digital camera. I can remember the first digital camera I ever got was on a Black Friday sale, and it was a Polaroid, and it used that weird card that was like an SD
Super
card.
big. Yeah.
It was like an SD card, but it was it was about 4 times that size and about a third as thick. It was really, really thin. It was easy to break.
I know what you're talking about. I was thinking
Yeah.
of the thicker one. There was a lot of
it wasn't the compact flash. So there was the compact flash. That's what my wife's DSLR uses, compact flash. But anyway, I can't remember what they even called this. But
I know what you're
really
talking about.
thin.
And it wasn't super fragile, but it was like thin. Yes.
It was just really thin. And it was, like I said, about 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times the size of an SD. But anyway, so this is what I was fixing to say. And I learned this even like way back then, playing around with cameras and stuff. So companies will tout a certain specific or a certain spec, right? Like they'll say, "Oh, our camera shoots in 4K." Okay, well, that's freaking great that it shoots in 4K resolution, but for the quality of the video, there's more things involved than the resolution at which it films. How does it handle lighting, right? How does it handle color, right? How quick is how fast is the image sensor? What are the other things? I mean, there's obviously the pixels, right? What are all these other factors that come into play? You can go on. I'm sure you can go on right now and you can pick up a 4K, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, a 4K camera off Amazon for probably $20. And I can almost guarantee you the phone in your pocket is going to be a better camera than that 4K camera. You know what I mean? So,
so you got your resolution is your number of pixels, let's say, from left to right and up and down. And then your sensor, I look at it as the artist and the canvas. So you can have a big giant canvas, that's nice. But if you have a child, then you're going to get a goofy looking picture on a giant canvas. But if you've got any size canvas and you've got an artist back there, Rembrandt or something, then what you're going to end up with, even on a small one, is a nice, clean, good image. So your sensor is really the camera. The what do you call it? The image size is really just how big you can export it, and like Clover was saying before, quality in, quality out.
And
so if you can export a really big version from a nice sensor, then of course you can use that better. But if you can get a small image from a good sensor, you can zoom in on that still. Where if you get a child drawing a finger painting on a giant canvas, it's still finger painting on a giant canvas. It looks really good. It's great quality, but it's fingerprinting or finger painting. So the sensor is the trick, and then the lenses give you the ability for that sensor to see without digital interference. And a digital zoom versus an optical zoom versus a clear lens versus a lens that's doing the work but not giving you as much clarity. That's where you get into paying real money for a camera. But again, take any of these things, take a $5 camera, literally a $5 camera back to 1950, and you'll get burned as a witch.
Yeah. Well, and newer is not necessarily better either. Like my talking about my wife's DLSR. So the image sensor on it is what makes it even a popular camera, even still nowadays, right? Because it's got a really great image sensor, and they got cheaper. Companies developed cheaper image sensors, and so that is what has made a lot of cameras you see more cost effective, right? They've got the same resolution. They'll shoot 4K or they'll shoot 1080p or they'll whatever, right? But the thing is, they've got a much cheaper image sensor in them nowadays. So um, just keep that in mind, that and pay attention to that if you're looking at camera gear specifically. That newer is not necessarily always better. Um,
And the sensor that that artist and the guts, that's the thing that costs a lot of money too. And they can make the body look great and the buttons look great and the size huge, at least the 4K huge.
oh yeah,
And then they save money on that sensor because nobody's paying attention to that. And most people don't care at the final result because you're not going to zoom this thing in and use just that slice for the up and down. The people that are going to go, I don't like this camera. But everybody else is going to go, oh, look at all my buttons. Look at how big it can go. They're not going to care that they save the money on a piece that only the few are going to appreciate or need. So, it's not a bad thing, but it's a factor if you are paying attention, if you're trying to get the best effort out or your best result out of your effort, right? Then pay that extra attention, get a model that has the best you can get.
Right.
People are talking about their old cameras at 3 hours in. I'm going to say, let's not talk about old cameras, but because we could probably talk for a while on that, all into cameras. But let's say thanks for everybody for joining us and give us some topics for next week's show. I have some topics and some ideas, but and Clover every once in a while has one to throw out there. But I don't think either one of us, we didn't come up with like a course curriculum and we're like checking off boxes or anything.
Right.
So if there's something that comes up, let us know. We've had a lot of good, interesting questions today. I think there's a couple people that are going to follow up with Clover. But anyway, we'll let Clover wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, I don't have much to wrap up. I'll just echo that. Yeah, if you have questions, you need help, then reach out to us. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about, I mean, we generalize a lot, and that's one of the issues that I've got with the whole creator helper sector. As creators, we're still individuals. We do our own things. We use different equipment. Have different comfort levels, and so some of these conversations, they benefit some people because some people have spent time researching things and everything else. Some may not, and so you may need some additional help, and we can provide that better on a case-by-case basis. I guess is what I'm saying. Long story short, but 3 hours, that was kind of short for this show. So
Well, we're 34 minutes away from Rapid Fire Radio starting up here. So Cape Gunworks does the 2A Tuesday segment of Grace Curley's show. The Rapid Fire Radio show happens on Wednesday, so this is like their warm up. But it's a fun show. The Grace Curley show is like a conservative radio show that follows the news. I think of it as like a Rush Limbaugh type of show. And then on Tuesdays for a 45-minute segment, they have Toby on from Cape Gunworks, and they throw questions at them. Since they're in Massachusetts, both the store and the radio show, most of the audience is all in Massachusetts. A lot of the questions are about the laws specific there. So it's interesting in that respects to hear what they're dealing with and how they're able to deal with it, just, having to deal with it. But often then the rest of the questions, I guess, would be more general gun questions and stuff. Because it's a radio show, it keeps going off from the feed to do commercials and whatever they do. So those are the times when Toby brings up the comments and addresses them. So it's a pretty fun, interactive conversation with the live radio show happening. And we have a kind of a competition, friendly competition to see how many questions will come up each week. So if you're interested in having something to do to listen to later on right now or imminently, this show will automatically recommend that show that's starting in 30 minutes. Just dropped a link to it. Additionally, it's Tuesday, so that means Ghost is having his show tonight. You know what the topic is? I've seen it, but I don't remember. I think I've seen it.
Gun myths, I think.
Oh, okay, maybe I didn't see it. I was thinking of the AR one. So then that's at used to be 5. I have no idea what time it is now. Later on this afternoon, evening for you, probably.
Yep.
And then Tuesday. So roll call we'll do.
No, it's Wednesday.
It's not Wednesday, is it?
Roll call is Wednesday.
I was going to say hit or miss. So I guess that's not roll call. That's Night Strike doing hit or miss. Yeah, I don't know if he's doing that. So it's hit or miss, literally. But barbecue is out here. I believe he's already got one scheduled, if I remember correctly, for tonight. And then we go live every night at midnight. So join us for 2A Tuesday on our show as well. Okay, that is the end. Clover has a store over there. Oh, I should have been having this thing going. I want to thank our Patreons, the people that subscribe to what we do. We usually have a scroll going at the bottom to thank them throughout the show. But the people that most of them are buying us a cup of coffee. A couple of them are buying us lunch each month. And then that accumulates. And we get that at the beginning of the month, kind of the end of the month, beginning of the month. And that helps pay bills. That makes it possible for us to post shows like this on topics like this. I know Clover has a Patreon too. We both have a store. So if you're interested in grabbing some merch, that goes to support our projects as well. And like Clover said, if you're looking for some consulting, we can help you in that realm also.